single matches without any more lucky competitors. The finals would adopt a best-of-3 format to determine the champion. An ordinary competitor needed to win 8 matches in one day to ultimately claim the championship, with only one chance to slip up in the final match, which would require playing an additional game. Zheng Hua's skills were indeed impressive, as he won 3 matches in a row to reach the top 16. At this point, all the competitors were domestic players, and Zheng Hua's winning streak was halted by a boy around 15 or 16 years old, who played like a seasoned professional. Zheng Hua had no complaints as he returned to the stands, smiling without a hint of disappointment. By noon, all their matches were concluded, and the events would continue in the afternoon, making them just spectators. It didn't matter whether they came or not. "Dad, let's go parkour this afternoon." Zheng Hua was still keenly remembering the original intention of coming to the moon. "As long as you're not tired, I promise we'll go." Zheng Fan replied helplessly. "You two can go. Mom and I are going to visit Chaoga University." Zheng Yu said. "Then let us split up this afternoon and do our own things." The term parkour summarizes very accurately. One must keep running, and the moves must be cool. The combination of both is especially attractive to young people, particularly young boys. Especially when performing difficult moves that many classmates can't do, seeing their odd expressions and genuine compliments always brings Zheng Hua great satisfaction, which fuels his unwavering motivation. He has already tried many places in both school and at home. After playing too much, it lost its challenge. His classmate, who is not as skilled as him, gained a lot of attention in class from a video recorded during a lunar trip, which made him unable to forget about it. "I can definitely do better than that guy," he thought to himself, feeling confident. Among the tourists, there are quite a few people who, like him, came specifically for this parkour paradise. After disembarking from their spacecraft, they come here to experience it. The low gravity on the moon allows many actions that are impossible on Earth to be performed easily, enabling them to jump higher, farther, and stay airborne longer, resulting in more cool videos. It's simply exhilarating. The park itself covers just over 10,000 square meters, but is divided into 10 levels, with various obstacles of different heights. Each level corresponds to a different difficulty, starting with beginner-level challenges on the first floor and increasing in difficulty as one climbs higher. The last few levels even have ever-changing dynamic terrains, which test the adaptability of the participants and leave newcomers thrilled. The beginner level here would be considered extremely difficult on Earth. No one can jump 5 to 6 meters straight up from a standing position. Here, many can not only jump that high, but also perform 7 or 8 somersaults and land smoothly. With some practice, they can become skilled at it. At first, he wasn't very interested in all this, but he had to join in to accompany his son. He held his phone, following along to record the entire experience, trying to keep his hand steady while running. It was harder than it seemed, and his assistant, Yuan, could do it better, but he felt it was better to do it himself. His son indeed had athletic talent, despite being small and not very strong. He perfectly navigated the routes on the first 5 levels. However, he couldn't manage the later levels. He was too young, and his body and strength weren't enough. He would have to wait until he grew up to experience it fully. To protect his son, he ran alongside him to ensure safety. With his exceptional physique and intellect, these challenges were not really a test for him. "Son, how do you like the video I recorded for you?" He replayed the latest clip. "Dad, you recorded it really well. It's much better than that guy's, and it's not shaky at all. This time, it will definitely overshadow him." His son was very satisfied after watching the video. As they were talking, a young man in his 20s wearing a baseball cap approached them and said, "Hey, buddy, you two are pretty good." "Haha, thanks for the compliment. My kid is interested, so I'm just here to practice with him," he replied humbly. "I know a great place that's much more exciting than this. Do you want to check it out?" The young man asked mysteriously. "Is it in this city? We won't go to any dangerous places. It's very close, just up there." He pointed upwards. "Dad, I want to go see it." His son spoke up, and he had no choice but to agree. On the way there, the young man introduced himself as Zhu Ming, a core member of the largest parkour group in the city, and shared that this park was built by them. He was responsible for recruiting fresh talent for the group. Chapter 247. The God Destruction Society. The interior activity area, office area, and residential area of the Parkour Paradise building only have 13 floors. Yet the overall height of the building exceeds 200 meters. This is a distinctive feature of lunar cities, where buildings under 100 meters are rare. The building they are in can be considered low-rise, while there are countless structures exceeding 1,000 meters, although most remain below that height. In terms of habitable rooms alone, Chaoga City can currently accommodate over 2 million people. If the entire urban area is developed, it could house over 20 million, reaching the population level of top-tier cities on Earth. However, such a demand for resources is immense and currently unaffordable on the moon, which is why there are still many vacant spaces within the city. The top floor features a vast platform with various uniquely shaped tables and chairs, as well as fitness equipment. Near one side of the building is a semicircular area with a bar at the center, surrounded by high stools. and a dozen groups of low-backed sofas. A number of young men and women are gathered here, chatting and socializing. Almost everyone holds a small bottle about 20 centimeters tall, resembling a miniature beer bottle, through which a light green liquid can be seen. 3 bottles of the taste of love, it's on me, Zhu Ming said, leading the Zeng father and son to the bar, addressing the robotic bartender. Please enjoy our specialty drinks. Rest assured, they are harmless and refreshing. Zhu Ming turned to them and added. 3 small glass bottles were opened and placed on the bar. Zhu Ming picked one up and took a big sip, swallowing it while letting out a long breath. The surrounding group stopped their conversation, smiling as they watched their reactions. Zeng Fan felt that these people meant no harm. So he handed a bottle to his son, took the last one for himself, and tilted his head back to drink. A bitter and astringent taste surged to his brain, almost making him want to spit it out, but he held back and slowly swallowed it with effort, exhaling deeply afterward. Turning to look at Zeng Hua, he noticed his son frowning tightly, one hand covering his mouth as he struggled to swallow. Onlookers nearby burst into laughter, clearly entertained by the scene. We don't allow alcoholic drinks here, and regular fruit juices are too bland, so we invented this concentrated bitter melon juice. How is that? Stimulating enough? Zhu Ming asked with a smile. Not bad. It's bitter at first, then sweet, and has a long aftertaste. Zeng Fan praised. Dad, can I give you this bottle? I don't want to drink it anymore. Zeng Hua pleaded with a pained expression, causing even more laughter from those around. Zeng Fan ordered a cup of freshly squeezed orange juice for his son, holding 2 bottles of bitter melon juice in his hands, feeling quite troubled himself. The orange juice is free, while each bottle of bitter melon juice costs 1 credit point. Zhu Ming kindly offered to treat them, but wasting it would result in a deduction of 10 points, which could lead to serious consequences for his son, including expulsion. Zeng Fan had just won 3 championships and received 150 points as a reward. He certainly did not want to lose them easily. Besides, the bitter melon juice was difficult to drink at first. Although the aftertaste was indeed pleasant, it required a slow approach. There are more than a dozen people here, all members of the Shimi Society. Some are new members like them, while many are seasoned members. Watching the new recruits drink bitter melon juice is quite a delight for them. When we first registered, we intended to name it the Maizhen Society to target the Fengshan Society in Zikacheng, but unfortunately, the system didn't allow it, so we changed it to Shimi Society. The meaning is quite similar, so we had to settle for that. Zhu Ming savored the bitter melon juice while introducing the history of the society. Since the moon opened up for immigration, the people here have had no worries about food and drink and often find themselves bored, leading to the establishment of various interest groups to expend their surplus energy. Among sports, extreme activities like parkour are the most popular. The safety measures and medical standards here are far superior to those on Earth, so there are rarely life-threatening situations, allowing people to indulge in their passion for climbing and jumping. Not just young people, many middle-aged and elderly individuals also come to experience it. As participation increased, levels of skill began to emerge, leading to various competitions between different societies in the city, from challenge matches to confrontations, individual competitions to team events, eventually evolving into leagues and cup tournaments between several cities, thus gradually establishing various competitive environments at different levels. The Fengshan Society boasts nearly 100,000 registered members, constituting 1/5 of their city's population, and they have dominated the first 3 Moon Parkour Championships. However, we in Chaoga have a demographic advantage, allowing us to attract newcomers nearby. Since the construction of this parkour paradise, we have added 30,000 members in just 1 year, many of whom are skilled. Our members have claimed victory in the last 2 championships. Speaking of winning, Zhu Ming's voice inevitably rose, clearly filled with pride. Zhu Ming is the captain of our last championship winning team and also the individual champion in the speed race. A girl with a ponytail interjected, perfectly timing her comment. Not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning, Zhu Ming said humbly, though his face betrayed his pride. Winning should still rely on experts like Brother Zhu, right? What can ordinary members like us do to help you? Besides, we're just visitors and will return to Earth in a few days. Zeng Fan asked, puzzled. As long as your lunar credit points exceed 5, you are legitimate members of our society, whether you are on the moon or not. The more members we have, the greater our influence in the Shimi Society. With greater influence, we have a better chance to affect city policies, making them more favorable to us. Zhu Ming spoke with conviction, leaving Zeng Fan with a much better impression of him. What policies do you want to change? Can't you just propose directly to the mayor? Zeng Fan, who had only learned about the management structure here from Li Hong yesterday, still didn't quite understand the specifics. We currently have 80,000 members, and a proposal to the mayor now carries much more weight than when we had only 800. Our society has a different level of influence compared to the research groups at Chaoga University. As long as we have enough members, it doesn't matter if the mayor is just a figurehead. Even the upper echelons of the Foundation will have to take us seriously, Zhu Ming declared confidently. During their conversation, a few more people arrived at the bar, each ordering a bottle of bitter melon juice. Many of these individuals didn't know each other, mostly young people in their 20s, with a few around Zhang Fan's age. However, Zheng Hua, the young child, remained the only one of his kind. The low parapet around the rooftop is only about 30 centimeters high, and within a radius of more than 10 meters, there is nothing but emptiness, with no obstructions. This building is also the shortest in the vicinity, flanked by skyscrapers that are 700 or 800 meters tall, while the buildings in front and behind reach heights of 300 or 400 meters. If it weren't for the 100 or 200 meters of space between the buildings, standing on this rooftop would feel incredibly oppressive. Here they come, Zhu Ming exclaimed after finishing the last sip of bitter melon juice and looking up. He noticed several small black dots flying out from the top of the tall building on the left. With his excellent eyesight, he could tell there were 5 people jumping directly from the rooftop. The two buildings are over 200 meters apart, with a height difference of 500 to 600 meters. After falling a certain distance, the individuals suddenly spread their arms. Between their arms and bodies, a special fabric formed wings resembling those of bats, slowing their descent and allowing them to glide toward this building. At their gliding speed, they would likely collide with the wall of the building on the right before landing on this rooftop. However, that scenario clearly did not occur. The 5 people folded their wings back and continued their descent after a few seconds of gliding, then glided again before descending one last time. They executed a series of flips in midair and successfully landed on the rooftop. The 3 men and 2 women who landed almost simultaneously were met with enthusiastic applause. But they showed no signs of pride, as if it were just an ordinary task. They headed to the bar, each ordering a cup of bitter melon juice, whimsically named The Taste of Love, though no one knew who came up with the name. Chapter 248. Inside and outside the rules, there are fewer newcomers today. A woman with a buzz-cut dyed yellow looked around and remarked. Despite her mature makeup, Zhang Fan estimated she was no older than 25, and her curvaceous figure drew considerable attention. I can't compete with your charm, Ouyang Lan, and you're not willing to stay here to recruit. Zhu Ming responded with a smile. I have nothing to do this weekend, so I'll come recruit. Ouyang Lan with the yellow buzz cut replied. Seeing them approach, Zhang Fan voluntarily vacated his spot at the bar and joined his son and assistant, Yuan Yuan, on a sofa in the distance. Among the 5, there was also a petite girl with white hair and blue eyes, sporting 2 ponytails, who had exceptionally fair skin and sat silently next to Ouyang Lan. The other 3 men were of similar age to Zhu Ming, with similar walking styles and clothing, making it evident they were a group and avoiding any misunderstandings. Is the equipment ready? Zhu Ming asked. The white-haired girl took off her backpack and pulled out an arm-mounted device, handing it to Zhu Ming. The maximum range is 550 meters. It's a long distance, but the load capacity has dropped to half, only 300 kilograms. You can't perform any extreme movements, and you definitely can't carry anyone. Ouyang Lan stated. Got it, I'll give it a try, Zhu Ming said, eagerly putting the equipment on his arms. Once on, a row of 5 clips on the back of his forearms secured it tightly, and the gear on both arms looked identical. After getting equipped, Zhu Ming walked to the left side of the building, raised his leg, and directly stood on the protective wall. Some new and old members gathered around, including Zhang Fan and his son, who were curious about what the equipment was. Below the protective wall was the side wall of a building over 200 meters high, and on the street below, tiny pedestrians could be seen. About 200 meters ahead was another building over 800 meters tall, with an entirely black, curved glass facade that had no visible seams. The glass facade continuously played silent advertisements. Zhu Ming aimed his left arm upward at a corner of the building and flipped his palm upwards. A fine red beam shot out from the front of his forearm, hitting the corner of the building over 600 meters high. Then, a transparent water line shot out and sprayed the same spot, splattering a large area of water that quickly turned white against the facade. Spider-Man, an onlooker exclaimed. Hee hee. This is even more real than Spider-Man. Wow. Zhu Ming tested the strength of the white line with both hands. The base he held was noticeably thicker. With a powerful push of his legs, his whole body swung out. Using this momentum, Zhu Ming flew directly to over 400 meters high. The white substance that had been tightly adhered to the opposite building's glass facade suddenly fell off and was quickly retracted into Zhu Ming's wrist guard. In midair, Zhu Ming flew out several dozen meters due to inertia and landed on the rooftop of a building 700 or 800 meters away, disappearing from sight. The new members, including Zhang Fan, were left in awe. Is parkour really played like this? Is this reality or a movie? They wondered, feeling quite ridiculous as they bounced around below. Ouyang Lan turned back, clapped her hands, and addressed everyone. Now I am in charge here. New members, the equipment you just saw was exclusively developed by our organization. You can earn credit points by participating in internal training or competitions, and if you earn over 500 points by joining our activities, You can have the right to use a set of equipment. The gliding gear we just used, along with other equipment, can be used as long as you have enough points. How many points can we earn in a day? Is it just the right to use them? A male member in his 30s asked. To answer your first question, the 10 levels of trials total 5,000 meters, and completing it within 20 minutes counts as passing, which earns you 1 credit point. You can earn a maximum of 3 points per day. As for your second question, on the moon, we practice communal ownership, where most items are temporarily at your disposal, and our equipment works the same way. The points you earn here are still yours to manage. 500 points grant you usage rights, and we 1T deduct any. However, the taste of love is about consumption, 1 point for a drink. And no one gets a discount. Ouyang Lan raised her voice to clarify the doubts, then returned to her seat and ordered a bottle of bitter melon juice. 3 points a day means it takes half a year. I might not even pass the 10 levels. This is so difficult. A female member sighed. This is newly developed equipment that is still not very mature and requires high skill and courage, which is why such strict usage conditions are set. Otherwise, if you trigger the emergency rescue system by falling from midair, you would lose points, 50 points at a time. How many points do you think you have to spare? For newcomers like you, one incident could lead to negative points and be sent back. Are we members now? Is there no initiation ceremony? Zheng Fan couldn't help but ask. The bar counter robot server whispered a few words to Ouyang Lan, and after she nodded, she said to Zheng Fan, drinking our bitter melon juice counts as joining our organization. Here, you can come and go freely, and you can declare your exit at any time without any restrictions. Zheng Hua felt envious of the Spider-Man equipment that Zhu Ming had just shown. But after hearing these conditions, he immediately felt disheartened. He had only just reached the 5th level and couldn't possibly stay here long-term. It was clear that he wouldn't be able to get it anytime soon. After leaving the park, Zheng Hua was listless and no longer felt the excitement he had right after recording the video. Zheng Fan understood his frustration, knowing that such matters couldn't satisfy him. So he chose to remain silent. By the time they returned to the hotel, it was already past 5 in the afternoon. Li Hong and Zheng Yu had finished their tour of the university and were discussing what they had seen. The students here do not have it as easy as the permanent residents. They face heavy academic pressure. If their grades are failing or their conduct is unsatisfactory, points will be deducted, and if their credit score falls below 5, they will also be sent back. Of course, good grades and outstanding performances yield abundant reward points. Graduating from university with a degree typically grants no less than 500 credit points, with some even exceeding 1 or 2,000. For undergraduates here, usually less than half manage to graduate on time and obtain their bachelor's degree, and the master's degree pass rate is no more than 30%. As for doctoral degrees, it's even lower. However, for students here, as long as they study diligently and follow school rules, even if they don't obtain a degree, they can still earn quite a few credit points. After all, there are no costs involved, and they can take their time. Anyone can audit classes at this university, and by paying a certain number of points, they can participate in the final exams. As long as they pass, they can also receive an honorary degree. Mom, can I come here to study at university in the future? Zheng Yu asked Li Hong, who was looking at a report. You can enroll based on your own abilities. Your dad and I won't provide extra help. That'll save us a lot on tuition. Li Hong replied casually. Am I really your biological child? You don't care about me at all. Zheng Yu complained. If you say you are, then you are. If you say you're not, then you're not. Does it matter that much whether you're my biological child? Li Hong replied dismissively. Mom, am I your biological child? Zheng Hua chimed in. No. I found you in a trash can. Li Hong said helplessly. You're lying. Godmother said she saw you give birth to me. Zheng Hua shouted loudly. Will you get your points deducted for that? Zheng Fan asked curiously. I've already lost points. You two little debt collectors. Go back to your room and don't disturb my work here. Li Hong yelled, and the two children stuck their tongues out at her and ran off. Chapter 249. A brief tour of the places to explore in Chaga City are certainly not limited to the Sports Center and the Parkour Paradise. There's also the Moon Museum, which houses hundreds of different telescopes, an observatory located on the lunar surface, and a large-scale amusement park, among many other attractions, each capable of entertaining them for an entire day. After spending a few days in Chaga City, the family traveled to Xianyuan City via the intercity underground transportation system to visit the Special Materials Museum. This museum features specimens of known elements from the universe, atomic models, various isotopes, introductions to elemental properties and their applications, as well as natural minerals and artificially synthesized materials. The models of various items created from these materials included many peculiar things that both Zheng Fan and Li Hong had never seen before, and the two children were continually amazed. Xianyuan City has a population of only over 200,000, making it the city with the fewest permanent residents on the moon. There aren't many places to visit, aside from the Materials Museum and the Lunar Accelerator Control Center. Most residents of this city are scientists engaged in related research, along with their families and university students. The Lunar Accelerator is one of the earliest lunar projects planned by Wu Qi. The 4 cities were initially designed to serve this project. After Zhengfan fell into slumber, the Reptilian Foundation continued to advance the construction of this project. This massive accelerator is several orders of magnitude larger than the Large Hadron Collider in Europe, and dozens of nuclear fusion reactors surrounding the lunar equator provide ample energy for the accelerator. Such a legendary piece of equipment has attracted a large number of scientists. Currently, more than half of the best scientists in related fields have settled in Xianyuan City, which has allowed Xianyuan University to develop into a world-class institution within a few years, with an enrollment of 50,000 students. In addition to conducting various high-energy particle collisions and researching microscopic particles, another important mission of Xianyuan City is to manufacture and collect antimatter. Aside from scientific research and supplying fusion reactors, it also aims to stockpile fuel for deep space exploration beyond the solar system. Compared to thermonuclear fusion, antimatter offers higher energy efficiency, making it more suitable for interstellar travel. Until new theoretical and technological breakthroughs occur, antimatter remains the highest-grade propellant available to humanity. This city has a strong appeal for scientists. But Zhengfan's family found it quite dull and, after less than a day, headed towards the next city, Shinong City. The agricultural skyscrapers and livestock buildings they had visited on Earth originated from Shinong City. Compared to what they saw here, the 50-story buildings on Earth seemed quite trivial. The underground space of Shinong City exceeds 10 kilometers in height and is 5 times the area of Chaoga City. The underground city spans over 100 kilometers, divided into more than 2,000 levels from the top to a depth of 10,000 meters, with each level providing over 15,000 acres of usable area, equivalent to 2 skyscrapers on Earth. Due to insufficient water sources and some nutrient supplies, this potentially massive agricultural city has currently developed less than 80 levels, barely meeting the daily needs of the 2 million population across the 4 cities. Water is the primary material transported daily by lunar spacecraft. However, the Icebound 1, which arrived from one of the moons, completely solved this issue. Icebound 1 has a diameter larger than that of the spacecraft heading to Earth, and a total water volume exceeding 10 billion cubic meters. With this water added to the circulation system, the lunar population could increase to 10 million without any pressure, and there would be no water shortage issues for decades to come. The farms and ranches here not only produce fruits, vegetables, grains, and meats necessary for human survival, but also have a primary function of cultivating and researching new types of seeds, finding ways to optimize planting and breeding processes. Compared to merely providing simple minerals and resources, as well as some unique industrial products, the various crop seeds cultivated in this city are increasingly occupying a larger share of lunar revenues and may become a pillar industry in the future. The university in this city has the highest student enrollment on the moon, with over 200,000 students. This university has the lowest admission standards, aside from nearly 50,000 students majoring in agriculture and animal husbandry. The rest are from various humanities and social science disciplines. The difficulty of the courses is also relatively low, leading to the spontaneous organization of over 20,000 student clubs, with an average of 1 club for every 10 students. Students spend half their time studying and the other half participating in various club activities, and even the most introverted students tend to be part of 3 to 5 clubs. Tourist attractions in this city, besides the usual farms and ranches, include a unique botanical garden and a zoo, occupying a total of 5 floors. Various edible crops, vegetables, fruits, traditional medicinal herbs, fungi, and common livestock such as chickens, ducks, geese, cows, horses, sheep, pigs, and rabbits are displayed, with many subdivided varieties. Additionally, there are many animals that are not commonly seen or consumed, such as donkeys, deer, ostriches, snakes, dogs, bullfrogs, bees, grasshoppers, and cicadas, collected for research on their living habits and dietary preferences to develop better breeding systems. Just the agricultural projects surrounding the city, layered uniquely, could allow visitors to tour for a month. Inside the city, most club activities organized by university students are open for public viewing, with dozens of large events held daily, including sports competitions, cultural performances, debates, recitations, and art exhibitions. Smaller activities with fewer than a dozen participants are even more numerous. To attract more spectators, these clubs employ various creative methods, as a larger audience means greater influence, allowing them to secure more resources from the university, which greatly benefits club development and provides students with greater rewards from their participation. The university does not have a defined campus area. It can be said to be integrated with the entire city. To facilitate students attending classes, the teaching and dormitory buildings of various colleges were initially concentrated together. However, many clubs recruit members across departments and colleges, and many students adjust their dormitory arrangements for convenience in participating in club activities. Gradually, the distinctions became less clear as they mixed together. As the family walked through the city, they received dozens of colorful flyers for various club activities in less than half an hour. He flipped through the papers, each covered in 5 or 6 languages with some simple, crude, and exaggerated advertisements. It was hard to find even printed books here. Where did so much paper for ads come from? Zhang Fan asked curiously. Have you forgotten where this place is? Not only do we grow food and vegetables, but there are also vast areas of fast-growing bamboo forests and reeds, producing various types of office paper and sanitary paper to meet the needs of millions on the moon. What is a little paper compared to that? Li Hong shot him a glance. Living as a human is really troublesome. We can't do without food, drink, or anything else. Zhang Fan sighed. You speak so lightly. If you're that capable, don't eat or use anything. Just go live like a wild man. The couple walked behind, while Zheng Yu in front was looking through a stack of flyers. She turned around holding a colorful flyer and pleaded with Li Hong. Mom, let us go see this play. The flyer had bold Chinese characters at the top. Shenong University Drama Club proudly presents the latest play, Impulsive Punishment. The Marshal of Heaven is infatuated with the fairy Chang'e. Don't miss it, or you'll definitely regret it. There were also photos of the 2 main actors in makeup. The man was handsome and the woman beautiful. Drastically different from their classic TV portrayals, almost subverting expectations, causing Li Hong and Zhang Fan to laugh out loud. The Marshal of Heaven on the flyer was a dark-skinned, shining handsome man, while the fairy Chang'e was a blonde, white beauty dressed in ancient attire, giving off a somewhat ethereal vibe. However, this pairing seemed amusing. Adapting Journey to the West into a play was one thing, but casting one dark and one light-skinned actor, was it to create a comedic effect? In any case, the flyer did its job. When they arrived at the theater following the address, it was almost packed with over 1,000 audience members, mostly students, along with tourists like them. By the time the play started, even the aisles had people standing, and it was unclear how many were drawn in by the flyer. The first act featured the Peach Banquet in Heaven, with the Jade Emperor, Queen Mother, and various deities making their entrance. The costumes and props were extremely rudimentary, made from local materials, and actors of all skin colors were present. However, their Mandarin was decent, and to clarify identities, background voices introduced the characters as they appeared. The actors performed earnestly, but laughter erupted from the audience. As all the deities gathered and the feast began, the main character was, of course, the dark-skinned Marshal of Heaven. After a few rounds of drinks, the leading lady, the fairy Chang'e, appeared to perform a dance, dressed in ethereal Hanfu, while the accompanying music was a lively modern dance tune. The quirky dance moves left the heavenly beings on stage stunned, and the audience was laughing uncontrollably. At that moment, the uninvited by Ma Wen burst in to cause trouble. The actor didn't need makeup. He was a burly white man with a full, fluffy body and a yellow curly hairstyle, charging at the Jade Emperor with a golden metal stick, knocking down anyone who dared to stop him. The Jade Emperor ran around in chaos, and the scene descended into complete disorder. The character of the Black Marshal Tianpeng took the opportunity to pull the fairy Chang'e behind him for protection. Soon after, the Buddha appeared against a backdrop of dramatic music. The actor portraying the Buddha had large ears and a face full of fortune, and he was notably hefty, weighing over 200 kilograms. With a single move, he subdued the character of Bai Ma Wen. The play lasted for 2 hours, featuring Tianpeng and Chang'e as the main characters in a wildly altered version of the Journey to the West. The actors performed with serious expressions, delivering bizarre lines that had the audience laughing uproariously. As they exited the theater, Zhang Huo was mimicking the street dance moves of the Black Marshal Tianpeng, humming the catchy tune of the Impulsive Punishment song, clearly impressed and likely to remember it for a long time. After staying in Shenong City for 5 days and having a cursory tour, the family set off for Shiqi City. Zhang Fan found Shiqi City particularly special. Initially unsure of what made it unique upon exiting the subway, he later observed the leisurely pace of pedestrians on the way to the hotel. The proportion of people wearing Hanfu was quite high, with modern clothing like suits and denim jackets almost non-existent. Even those not in traditional Hanfu wore modified ancient styles. Walking on the streets of Shiqi City felt like stepping back in time. Interestingly, many foreigners, with various skin and hair colors, donned similar attire, blending in seamlessly. The streets were paved with imitation stone, and there were many tall buildings whose exteriors resembled perilous mountain peaks. Without close inspection, it was hard to detect any flaws. Dad, look up at the sky, Zheng Hua exclaimed, shaking Zheng Fan's arm. 2 winged humanoid figures flew overhead, sporting enormous wings on their backs that they could flap to gain altitude, gliding or soaring gracefully. They appeared far more advanced than the bat-like wings of Ouyang Lan and her group from the Shenmish. Were they inspired by Lei Jinzi, or perhaps angels from above? Upon entering the hotel, everything from the furniture to the bedding exuded an antique charm. although not made of wood. The materials were crafted to mimic the texture and patterns of wood, creating a rich atmosphere. How unprofessional can the mayor be, indulging in such frivolities? Zheng Fan complained upon entering. You're mistaken. Mayor Wu Yu of Shiqi is the only one among the 4 mayors on the moon with a formal background. She has her own business philosophy, and this city has the longest visitor retention time, with many choosing it as their top destination for leisure on the moon. Even more popular than Chaoga. If she hadn't limited the population size, this would be the most populated city on the moon. Li Hong countered. Do you know Wu Yu well? Zheng Fan asked. She was introduced to me by Wang Dandan. She was originally a full-time official at the department level and moved here after resigning. If there were a top 10 mayors list, she would undoubtedly deserve a spot. Li Hong replied. The mayors of those 3 cities are unknown and have no presence at all. Zheng Fan laughed. True, you're right. The mayor of Chaoga is Lu Yu, and since they got married, the couple rarely stays here. Both Xinyuan and Xinnong are university presidents as well, claiming to govern with a light touch, but in reality, they just neglect their duties. Li Hong agreed with his view. After settling in at the hotel, the family did not go out for a stroll, but instead chose to rest at the hotel. The hotel is a tall building, and outside is a huge terrace resembling Rocky Mountains. It feels as if they are living in a villa built on a mountain, where they can see the mist floating below and distant peaks appearing and disappearing. Sitting on the bamboo chairs on the terrace, sipping tea and enjoying the distant scenery, they felt particularly relaxed. Even the usually restless Zheng He quieted down, no longer insisting on going out to play, and was seriously reading a book. Zheng Yu was also reading, while Li Hong was busy working on her laptop. Only Zheng Fan had nothing to do, leaning back on the bamboo chair with his eyes closed. This city indeed has a calming power that one might not even notice. With his eyes closed, Zheng Fan felt as if he were entering a game, reminiscent of the time he first broke through on an unnamed peak in Zhongnan Mountain. That feeling of almost merging with the surrounding world, inhaling and exhaling, as if absorbing the energy between heaven and earth, made his entire body feel non-existent. He had experienced this feeling once before in Dali, where he felt like a whole day had passed in what seemed like just a moment. Thinking of this, Zheng Fan quickly opened his eyes. Turning his head, he noticed that his son and daughter were gone, and a middle-aged couple was sitting in their bamboo chairs, while Li Hong remained next to him, still busy with her laptop. What time is it? Zheng Fan asked. It's 9:30 in the morning. You've been sitting for 18 hours. Li Hong replied. After so many years, she had become accustomed to Zheng Fan's situation. Seeing is believing. Mr. Zheng is indeed extraordinary. I never took Taoist practices seriously before, but seeing your state today, I have to admit that the ancients did not deceive me, exclaimed the middle-aged man. Li Hong introduced the 2 guests. This is Wu Yu, the mayor of our city whom I mentioned yesterday, and this is her husband, Zhou Ran, a professor at Shiqi University who studies string theory. Just call me Zheng Fan. It feels awkward to be addressed as Mr. Zheng Fan said with a smile. Then don't call me Professor Zhou either. Let's just use our names for a more friendly discussion. I'm curious, were you meditating just now? But your posture is different from those of others, Zhou Ran replied. Old Zhou, let's switch places, and you 2 can talk together, Li Hong suggested, swapping seats with Zhou Ran and moving to the far end to converse with Wu Yu. Chapter 251. Superstring theory. Modern physics has made 2 significant discoveries. One is Einstein's special and general relativity. The other is the establishment of quantum theory. Through the relentless efforts of many scientists, quantum theory and special relativity were successfully combined into quantum field theory, providing an effective overall framework for describing multi-particle systems, especially those involving particle creation and annihilation processes. This laid the theoretical foundation for particle physics and has been widely applied in other branches of modern physics, such as nuclear theory and condensed matter theory. General relativity is the theory that describes the gravitational interactions between matter. In the realm from the scale of the solar system to the entire universe, experimental observations and theories have corroborated each other well, successfully predicting the existence of black holes and gravitational waves. However, at the microscopic scale or within the immense gravity of black holes, general relativity reveals its limitations. With our current level of understanding, quantum field theory and general relativity are mutually inconsistent, indicating that they should be unified within a larger theoretical framework. This larger framework is beginning to take shape, known as string theory. String theory posits that the fundamental units of the universe are not particles, but extremely tiny strings that move through space, giving rise to various particles. Different vibrational modes correspond to different particles, and strings can be open like line segments or closed like circles. Strings can split into 2 or combine into 1. All interactions in the world, all matter and energy, can be explained through the splitting and combining of strings. String theory can also be understood through the concept of tau produces 1, 1 produces 2, 2 produces 3, and 3 produces all things, as described by Laozi. Isn't that fascinating? Zhou Ran summarizes his theoretical research. So, is the vibration of strings spontaneous or controlled? If spontaneous, is it random or follows a certain pattern? Asked Zheng Fan, intrigued. Of course, it follows a pattern, which is why there are 61 fundamental particles in the standard model. If it were entirely random, there should be many more. Zhou Ran responded. Since there is a pattern, where does it come from? Is it possible that it was predetermined by a divine or supernatural force? Zheng Fan pressed further. Zhou Ran laughed at his question and replied. You're back to the age-old topic of whether there is a God in this world, and if our reality is a simulation. I can't answer that. And I want to know too. Not recognizing the true face of Mount Lu is because one is situated within it. Yes, that's why our predecessors sought transcendence. Only by detaching from this world can one truly see it. However, most people fail to achieve this in their lifetime. Whether those who attained enlightenment succeeded, we do not know. They may have succeeded but are unable to tell us, or they may have told us, but at our level of understanding, we cannot comprehend it. Zhou Ran easily grasped his meaning. Talking to such individuals is straightforward due to their strong comprehension abilities. I experienced that kind of state 10 years ago by the Arai Lake in Dali, where it felt as if my entire body did not exist, merging with the universe. It seemed like a mere blink, and a whole day had passed. Zheng Fan himself was unsure what that state was, hoping that the knowledgeable Zhou Ran could provide a reasonable explanation. Was your situation similar to that of sleeping in a game for over 8 years? Zhou Ran wanted to learn more. The situation in the game is quite complex. I spent over 30 years from the age of 18 to 50, but later learned from the super-intelligent A Chung that it actually only took one night in reality. However, the feelings in my dream were incredibly real. I wanted to wake up, but couldn't. In the game, I was at a certain level of cultivation, and I thought it was due to a lack of breakthrough. So I chose to enter a state of seclusion intentionally. It felt like time passed in the blink of an eye. With 30 years passing in the game, while over 8 years had gone by in reality, Zheng Fan still found it unbelievable while recounting his experiences in the game. You feel like a long time has passed, but in reality, it hasn't. What feels like a moment to you may actually be a long time in the real world. Zhou Ran was researching a nearly metaphysical physical theory, and one had to have a strong imagination to grasp it. It was the first time he had heard of a situation like Zheng Fan's, and many thoughts crossed his mind, but he rejected them one by one. On the side, Wu Yu and Li Hong had already stopped discussing their topic and were listening to their conversation. Li Hong added, I come from a nursing background and have seen many patients in a vegetative state. His condition was completely different from those individuals. If we were to measure parameters like heart rate, breathing, and brain waves with hospital equipment, he would have been declared dead. His body temperature also dropped significantly. But unlike the deceased, his body maintained a certain temperature, his skin remained elastic, and there was no stiffness. Later, Nuwa developed specialized instruments that detected that his heart rate and breathing still existed, albeit very weakly and slowly. After he woke up, he didn't undergo any recovery training. It was as if he had just slept like a normal person. Zhou Ran gently tapped the armrest of the bamboo chair with his fingers, thinking for a few minutes before saying, Zheng Fan's cultivation, whether in the game or in reality, mainly occurred in his brain, or we could say, at a deep level of consciousness. Ordinary people can only control their limbs, head, neck, mouth, breathing, heart rate, and other functional organs through the neurons in their brains. However, Zheng Fan, through cultivation, reached the legendary state of oneness with the universe. To explain it within my existing theoretical framework, his deep consciousness can coordinate the most microscopic strings that make up all the matter in his body, as well as the strings that constitute the material world around us, achieving a wonderful resonance. In this state, it's as if time in a black hole is nearly at a standstill. In other words, although time outside continues to flow, for Zheng Fan and his body, it feels as though time has stopped. No, it should be said that it has become extremely slow. The moment he opens and closes his eyes is equivalent to our 8.5 years. You make it sound like I can turn into a black hole. Zheng Fan laughed at his speculation. Einstein's theory on time is not perfect. It is not an absolute truth and may be overturned in the future. The analogy of a black hole is just to help you understand. String theory provides a more mathematically reasonable explanation of time and space, but unfortunately, it's still just theoretical without means of verification. I'm not yet capable of fully describing it in a few sentences. Do you have any special experiences in the game? Zhou Ran asked again. Zheng Fan thought for a moment and said, actually, I had a breakthrough in my realm before entering seclusion. I could see fragments of a person's past and future, but this kind of thing consumes a lot of energy, and I couldn't fully control it. I chose to enter seclusion to stabilize my realm, or perhaps to escape. After I came out, that situation disappeared. So, did you choose to wake up 30 years later because you saw a scene from the future? This was a question Zheng Fan had never seriously considered until Zhou Ran asked him. He realized that after his breakthrough in the game, he did see a scene of his wife, Lu, before her passing, and he had vowed in his heart to accompany her through the last journey. That must be why he woke up at that time. Yes, the scene of my wife's passing in the game. Oh, you are quite sentimental. Li Hong teased, feeling a mix of emotions. If the outside world cut off your brain's connection to the game, or stopped time in that game dimension, do you think you could still wake up? Zhou Ren continued to ask. I should be able to wake up. Actually, during that period before I entered seclusion in the game, I felt like I could wake up. Later, I asked Acheng. And that period coincided with the time I would normally wake up every day. After entering seclusion, the connection to the game remained. And perhaps the game's time progression caused my brain's biological clock to misjudge. Zhang Fan reflected on the whole process. It was my fault. I kept the game connection for you. According to the normal rules, it should have been forcibly disconnected after 10 hours. Li Hong admitted. Your decision wasn't wrong at the time. Now I'm just guessing that if the connection had really been cut off, it's possible I wouldn't have been able to wake up. It's all just a twist of fate, Zhang Fan comforted his wife. If he hadn't been in a deep sleep, whether the Reptilian Foundation could have developed to its current scale was debatable. At least Zhang Fan himself didn't think so. Chapter 252. International situation. Not long after returning from the moon, the summer vacation for the two children ended, and they began a new semester at school. Zhang Hua entered the 4th grade, while Zhang Yu entered the 5th grade. The news of Zhang Fan awakening from years of slumber gradually became known, and they had no intention of hiding it. Anyone who called Li Hong would find out. Many friends and colleagues, either individually or in groups, came to visit. Zhang Fan had to receive them one by one, as they were being kind, and it was normal social interaction, but it also became quite bothersome. Fortunately, they didn't have too many relatives and friends, and those who qualified to visit were limited. After about half a month of busy visits, things quieted down. Zhang Fan did not go out to work. The series of technical directors at several companies had already been replaced due to his slumber. All company shares were donated to the Reptilian Foundation, and several board positions were filled by the Foundation's appointees. Li Hong had been serving in a dual role as the acting chairperson of the Foundation during his slumber, and Zhang Fan felt she was more suitable than he was. So he felt at ease continuing to relax at home. Actually, it's not that nothing is being done. Research on universal quantum computers has been ongoing. Initially, there were plans to study the functioning principles of human brain neurons to build a computer, and preliminary results have been achieved, with verification being conducted. After discussions with others, new ideas have emerged, with a more extensive framework and advanced concepts, though there are still many challenges to implement, requiring more time and further contemplation on key aspects. The realms cultivated in the game can also reflect on the physical body in reality. Previously, there was only a vague and uncertain feeling without concrete evidence. Among the millions of players, less than 1 in 10,000 can achieve a basic level of cultivation, and there are no exact statistics on the number of players who experience the effects on themselves. After his slumber, the research on the game console was halted by a few individuals, and all distributed consoles were recalled and destroyed, except for the one retained due to insistence from a colleague. Research on reverse input of brain waves simulating human senses finally made progress 3 years after his slumber, although there remains a noticeable gap from actual sensations. For a virtual reality gaming device, this is already of epoch-making significance. After more than a year of experiments, the game helmet absorbed these technologies and was launched alongside a new generation of gaming pods, combined with a shooting and fighting game originally developed and later remade by a super-intelligent entity, propelling Brainwave Gaming to new heights. It became the 5th publicly listed company in the brainwave sector, following brainwave technology, finance, healthcare, and driving, significantly increasing the wealth of the original shareholders. The game, in pursuit of a realistic experience, lacks stimulating excitement during gameplay, leading to a slow increase in player numbers after reaching a certain threshold. However, dedicated players are particularly fond of it and look down on other games, resulting in strong user retention that keeps the game consistently generating stable revenue. Maintaining its position as the top-grossing game in Asian countries and regions, Western countries have also introduced this game. But due to the lack of credible historical records during the corresponding period, players there face a significant gap between experience and reality, keeping it as a niche game without entering mainstream rankings. However, the game helmet and pods have rapidly gained popularity due to the remade games. The rapid spread of artificial intelligence and the emergence of superintelligence have broken many monopolies held by Western nations in the tech sector. Numerous high-tech companies are gradually losing their competitive edge, with stock prices and corporate profits declining year after year, while government revenue and public wage levels hit new lows. Various civil protests and riots have arisen, with right-wing sentiments surging, leading to increasing social unrest. The Reptilian Foundation established an unlimited energy company based on nuclear fusion technology, rapidly popularizing it within the country and in third-world nations through low-interest loans. Dozens of lunar-class spaceships continuously brought in minerals from the Moon and Mars, breaking the Western monopoly on energy and mineral resource pricing, tearing away the last veil of shame from these high-welfare developed nations. The peaceful lives of people in certain developed nations are gradually slipping away, while countries in the developing world are slowly rising. The burden-bearing camels that once supported them are no longer present. And those nations and peoples that have transitioned from luxury to frugality are experiencing increasing pain from the widening gap. The shift in the international situation is happening bit by bit, and even those in leadership positions, including presidents and prime ministers, can only see a limited part of the overall picture. They can sense that the situation is deteriorating. But the principles of power checks and balances based on democratic governance leave them powerless in many respects. As the economic environment worsens, political struggles become more intense, making long-term strategic planning and reforms increasingly difficult to achieve. In such an environment, more radical viewpoints tend to gain public favor, and some extreme parties are receiving more and more votes, starting to ascend the political stage and move closer to central positions. Typically, when a country cannot resolve its internal issues, it needs to establish an external enemy to unite its people or initiate a war to divert conflicts. A method that history has repeatedly validated. The newly appointed leader of a certain nation, Chris, is facing the same dilemma, and he realizes that even this last option has become less reliable. They still have the largest and most widely distributed military bases in the world, the most aircraft carriers and combat aircraft, yet they lack the confidence to initiate and win wars. The advanced military equipment relies on networks and communication systems, as well as reconnaissance satellite systems, which seem increasingly unreliable. Above them hangs the proverbial sword of Damocles, represented by the Reptilian Foundation. They believe that artificial intelligence will not directly oppose humanity, but the Foundation's spacecraft can target satellites involved in illegal actions that endanger civilians, providing ample excuses for their actions. Such incidents have occurred multiple times, leading Chris to confirm that if he dares to start a war, the other side will certainly confiscate more of their satellites. Without satellite navigation, reconnaissance, and communication network support, all their advanced weapons would become useless. Their military might struggle against even drug traffickers from neighboring regions, making the idea of war seem humiliating. Knowing that the other side is responsible, yet feeling helpless against them, unable to impose even the simplest sanctions, they can only express repeated protests. This sense of frustration has caused Chris to change his fine tea sets several times in just 6 months, with his blood pressure reaching new heights. No amount of fine tea sets can resolve the near collapse of the domestic economy, the rising unemployment rate, or the crowds protesting day and night outside the leader's office. He has also attempted to learn from another government's approach by distributing smart robots for free to the unemployed as a form of basic support. However, these robots come at a high cost, which the government's crumbling finances cannot bear. Their imitation robots lack the advanced intelligence and value creation capabilities of those from the other nation, and unlike that government, his administration does not have the authority to nationalize them after 5 years. Not only Chris is in a state of distress, several long-established leaders from developed countries, who are usually accustomed to being on top, are facing similar predicaments. Chapter 253. Telling Stories. Zheng Fan, I heard you have awakened from your slumber. I wonder if I have the honor to share tea with you again? This message came from his online gaming friend, Jiyunin Feng, whose real name is Chiyu. She is a web novelist he met a decade ago. He remembered her as a long-haired beauty with striking eyes, capable of piercing through one's heart. She seemed quite young at that time, and he was curious about how she had changed. He intended to gain insights into the game from her perspective as a player, as the information on the forums was overwhelming and disorganized. He was reluctant to spend time sifting through it all, so he accepted her invitation. They were to meet at a high-end club near Jimenshili, where external guests are not allowed without a member's invitation. Chiyu came out to greet him and led him inside a 20-square-meter private room named Listening to the Rain by the Railing, which had a poetic ambience. Outside the bamboo windows, several banana plants were growing. The room's decor resembled the style in the game, with Tang Dynasty-style low tables. Visitors were required to take off their shoes upon entering. The main host seat was in the north, with guest seats on either side. Behind a low table on the west side sat a beautiful woman in Hanfu, gracefully preparing tea as if she were alone in the room. At a glance, Zheng Fan recognized she was a robot, just like his assistant, Yuan Yuan. Chiyu asked him to sit at the east side low table while she took the main seat. After 10 years, you haven't aged a bit. You look even more radiant than before. Chiyu smiled slightly after sitting down and complimented him. You're truly a writer. Your eloquence is impressive. I think that description fits you better. I want tea and bears myself. Zheng Fan replied, sitting cross-legged. Haha, I'll take that as your compliment. Chiyu said. This is my assistant, Lan Yu. Her tea skills are exceptional. She introduced the woman in Hanfu, who had just finished brewing tea. She poured 2 cups and presented one to each of them. Zheng Fan picked up the delicate teacup, pretended to smell it, took a sip, and praised it. I must first thank you for the authorization you granted back then. The novel adapted from your story helped me achieve success. I gained financial freedom and escaped the troubles of survival, allowing me to truly pursue what I love. He put down the teacup, and Chiyu solemnly expressed her gratitude. That was mainly your own talent. Granting authorization was just a verbal agreement for me, requiring no effort. She didn't mention it, and Zhang Fan almost forgot about that. He and T even read the adapted novel. You may see it as a casual gesture, but for me, it was a tremendous help. I am preparing a gift for you. This gift comes from my heart, so please don't refuse. Chiyu said earnestly. Lan Yu brought over a box measuring 20 centimeters on each side. After opening it, inside was a small purple clay teapot. Zhang Fan picked it up to examine it. He rarely drank tea at home and didn't know much about it, only aware that some were highly sought after, with expensive ones rumored to be worth over 100 million, while even the cheaper ones could cost hundreds or thousands. You regard money as worthless. And this purple clay teapot is the one I am most satisfied with after spending a year learning and crafting it. I present it to you as a token of my gratitude. Well then, I will accept it. I appreciate your gratitude. The other party said this, and refusing would be inappropriate, too confrontational. They placed the teapot back in the box and handed it to their assistant behind them. I heard that your slumber is related to gaming. Could you share the details with me? I'm very interested in the sequel to your story. And now you have millions of readers and more television viewers, so I believe everyone is equally interested. Seeing him accept the gift, Chiyu finally revealed her true intention. In response, Zhang Fan was already mentally prepared. Their connection was based on gaming, and it seemed there was little else to discuss. So, he began to recount his experiences in the game chronologically. This time, the time span was longer, with more characters appearing and countless events of all sizes. Yet, Zhang Fan had an extraordinary memory. He had already tried to condense it, but it still took him 4 to 5 hours, during which he also answered Chiyu's various detailed questions, starting from around 8 or 9 in the morning until the afternoon, when the story had just reached the point of marriage and having children. After having a simple meal provided by the club in the tea room, he continued narrating the subsequent story. The 2 robot assistants were also captivated. This was the first time Zhang Fan had told these stories in full to someone, and Li Hong had never heard them. Wait a moment, you mentioned your wife is from the Lu family of Hedong. Is there a connection to Lu Zongyuan? They seem to be from the same era, right? Chiyu asked while taking notes, treating it like a class, recording and constantly jotting down questions. Lu Zongyuan is her half-brother. He was born 6 months after we got married. Fate spared him many hardships, although he is still very talented. Most of the works we see now were never created. Zhang Fan added that, in a way, fate is fair. It gives you certain things but takes others away. As for which is more important, that is subjective. Well then, continue. Chiyu brushed her hair back and smiled apologetically at him. Zhang Fan recalled and continued the story, but was interrupted again shortly after. Sorry, but Linger has a lot of plot lines. For such an important character who grew up with you, don't you have any feelings for her? Why let her leave the palace to marry? I feel like you don't care about her. Chiyu couldn't help but ask. First of all, I know this is just a game, so I feel a sense of detachment from all the characters. Secondly, the Crown Prince's position is very sensitive. If I show too much concern for her, it would harm her. Keeping her in the palace wouldn't be good either. Zhang Fan responded. Does Linger have a continuation? Can you finish her story first? Chiyu requested. Linger was already 27 when she left the palace. In that era, and even in modern times, that would be considered a late age for marriage. Because of her background from the palace, many families came to propose. But Linger was not satisfied and rejected them all. Her parents were at a loss about what to do with her. Later, after Lu Yun heard about this, she had her mother step in to arrange a marriage between Ling Er and a cousin from the Lu family, which resolved Ling Er's lifelong issue. Lu Yun's cousin had lost both parents at a young age and grew up in poverty, relying on the support of the clan. With nothing but bare walls and no academic achievements, he remained single until over 30. After marrying Ling Er, who was somewhat affluent, he had a son the following year. This motivated him to study hard, and a few years later, he became a successful scholar, marking a turnaround in his fortunes. Ling Er later had a large family, and, thanks to her husband and son, became a respected matron. Her life was smooth sailing without major setbacks. Even when I left the game, she was still alive. Zhang Fan briefly recounted Ling Er's later story, showing little interest in such matters, mostly hearing about them from Lu Yun's musings. It's too bland of a story. There's no appeal, Chiyu remarked. True life is mostly plain and uninteresting. I just report it as it is. That's the truth. But if it's written like this, no one would want to read it. After chatting for a while, Zhang Fan continued his narration. For decades, most of the time was uneventful, with hardly any major twists. A series of minor events made up daily life. He tried to highlight the significant events. Yet it wasn't until after 6 in the afternoon that he finished. Chiyu closed her notebook with satisfaction. Thank you for your hard work. I'll cook something for you. It's too late. I should head home. See you next time. Zhang Fan said his goodbyes and left the club with Yuan Yuan. Chapter 254. Chi Yu. For a while afterward, Zhang Fan met Chi Yu several times at the same club, always in a private room called Listening to the Rain from the Railing. Curiosity got the better of him, and he eventually asked, only to find out that she was one of the shareholders of the club, and that room was her exclusive space, serving as her reception area. Years ago, riding the wave of the game's popularity, her novels received strong recommendations from the platform, becoming a hit and topping the charts in the same genre. Within a year, she earned a seven-figure income from royalties, transforming from a struggling writer to a well-known online author. Her earlier works also gained unprecedented attention, and her income soared. At that time, Brainwave Media needed a reputable work to break into the market, so they adapted his novel based on the gaming experience into a television series. With a gaming audience of hundreds of millions, the series successfully established Brainwave Media's reputation and further elevated Chi Yu's fame. Consequently, the novel adapted from the game Seeking Immortality became a hot trend, inspiring many writers to follow suit. The cost of playing games is low, requiring only a bit of time, and the stories produced easily attract large readerships. Gamers can see reflections of their own gaming experiences, and as long as the author's writing isn't too poor, they can gain widespread recognition. Chi Yu certainly wouldn't miss this trend. Her own gaming experience is more extraordinary than most, and with her high level of attention, her new work achieved greater success than the previous one, especially since the protagonists of both works are somewhat related, attracting fans of the earlier work's drama to see what happens next. With 2 consecutive hits, she has risen to the ranks of top online writers. After completing this work, she achieved financial independence. While the novel concluded, the story within her game has not ended, marking the beginning of a new phase in her life. In the game, she transitioned from the daughter of a merchant to marrying into a noble family. After a series of struggles, she finally established her footing and attained the position she deserved, raising children and continuing her lineage, which is also the conclusion of her novel. The subsequent story unfolds years later when her husband passes away and her children start their own families. Chi Yu then dedicates herself to a Taoist temple, focusing on her cultivation. Thanks to the techniques passed on by Zhang Fan and personal guidance from someone associated with Tengwang Villa, she makes progress in her practice, which slows her aging, giving her an almost eternal youth. Gradually, her reputation grows, and many ladies from noble families come to seek her advice, even requesting to become her disciples. As she takes on more disciples, she eventually teaches a few who manage to start their own cultivation journeys, forming a rather influential sect. After many years of accumulation, she reaches the alchemical stage of cultivation, experiencing the sensations that Zhang Fan had described. Learning from Zhang Fan's lessons, she does not enter prolonged seclusion, but she also does not achieve any significant breakthroughs. However, she lives a long life, passing away peacefully at over 120 years old, and then experiences the reincarnation journey that Zhang Fan once underwent, starting her cultivation anew. Despite not reaching the final stage in the game, over the years, she has indeed met many friends who have made significant progress in their cultivation, partially fulfilling Zhang Fan's earlier request. How many of you have progressed in your cultivation to what level? Zhang Fan asked curiously, as he had only entertained a fleeting thought back then and did not hold much hope, but he was surprised that Chi Yu could indeed connect with so many. 39 people. It's hard to say how advanced we are. Many practice Buddhist methods, and there are also many from Taoist external alchemy sects, talisman schools, and various other techniques I've never heard of before. However, to my knowledge, no one has reached the final stage yet. Perhaps they prefer to keep it a secret. Chi Yu replied, do you feel that the cultivation in the game has any impact on reality? Is there an effect? Zhang Fan inquired. I never thought about it before, but now that you mention it, there seems to be an influence. I used to catch colds every year, but I haven't had one in years since I started playing the game. Also, my friends say I don't look old. Does cultivating in the game really benefit me in reality? Chi Yu wondered, always proud of her good genes. I feel there is a significant impact, not only on the mind, but also on the body. The realms of cultivation in the game can similarly be experienced in reality, but it requires specific external environmental triggers. This is just my personal experience, Zhang Fan shared. Is it really that magical? I usually don't exercise much. I'm a homebody. They envy me for being able to eat anything without gaining weight, while they have to take diet pills. Chi Yu laughed. You can sign up for a yoga class or a martial arts training session to test your athletic skills and physical condition. The techniques in the game can be tried out in real life. You might have a different experience. Zhang Fan said, I definitely want to give it a try. Is your wife, Li Hong, also at a very high level of practice? Chi Yu said enviously. I often see her on TV, and I met her at a party last year. She looks even more beautiful in real life, really youthful. We rarely talk about our experiences in the game, but her long-term yoga practice has certainly been beneficial. Zhang Fan replied honestly. Oh, why is that? Is it because you have another family in the game? Chi Yu asked curiously. There might be some reasons for that. She's quite busy with work, and we don't have much time to communicate at home, so we don't discuss these matters. He realized that they hadn't talked about game-related issues for a long time, and it did seem a bit strange now that he thought about it. After leaving the club, Zhang Fan thought they had talked enough about the game and decided that he couldn't casually meet Qiyu again. Although they had enjoyed their conversations, he was increasingly reluctant to attract trouble. After achieving ascension in the game, Zhang Fan had unlocked the first step to access other dynasties, expanding the options available to players. The player base was experiencing a new wave of growth, with an even faster increase in players from abroad, who could now choose to enter the age of exploration, marking the beginning of Western civilization's lead in the world. However, he wasn't planning to enter the game again for now, as he was uncertain about what he would face, whether it would be like starting anew as a new player or continuing to advance in higher levels of cultivation. He wanted to clarify the real reason for this period of dormancy before proceeding, and Zhou Ran had agreed to help him come up with possible testing methods. If Zhou Ran's idea could be successfully validated, it would be a tremendous help not only for Zhang Fan, but also a groundbreaking breakthrough for his string theory research. Nonetheless, Zhang Fan felt that Zhou Ran's thoughts were a bit fanciful. Trying to connect profound physical theories with cultivation and even wanting to validate it seemed far-fetched. Although he found it unreliable, he still admired Zhou Ran's imagination. It was indeed commendable for a scientist researching deep theories to relate everything back to their field. Before going to bed that night, Li Hong suddenly asked him, "How old is your female online friend this year?" "I'm not quite sure. She should be under 40. Maybe a few years younger than you." Zhang Fan replied honestly. "Is she more beautiful than me, or more understanding?" "Where are you going with this?" "We mainly talk about game-related matters and issues regarding cultivation. She is like a half-disciple to me, and similar problems that arise with me might also occur with others. I once had her organize a player group with those who have made some achievements in the game, just to understand their situations and prevent similar issues from happening to others." Zhang Fan had to explain seriously. "You never talk to me about your game matters, yet you're out discussing it with others. You're so busy with work every day. Do you think I have time to nag you about this? If I have time to talk, do you have time to listen? I've only discussed game matters with Zhou Ran and Qiyu, and it's all related to specific reasons, not just idle chatter." Zhang Fan replied somewhat unhappily. "How is it? Do you think I'm being unreasonable?" "Not at all. If you want to hear it, I'll tell you." After less than 10 minutes of talking, Li Hong fell asleep. Chapter 255 Invitation. Zhang Fan, who was staying at home, received an invitation, Wu Zhan's wedding invitation. He and Wang Xiaoxue ultimately got divorced. Their 2 children had already grown up, no longer serving as an excuse to maintain their marriage. After their son was admitted to university, the couple parted ways amicably, each finding their own happiness. The substantial division of assets did not significantly affect Wu Zhan's ranking on the rich list, as the advantage of a few individuals was too great. In fact, it led to his ex-wife Wang Xiaoxue, along with their son and daughter, also making it onto the wealthy list, causing many seasoned wealthy individuals to drop 3 places, becoming a curious incident in the financial world. Since then, Wu Zhan completely embraced his freedom, living the life he had always dreamed of. He indulged daily with beautiful women of various types, identities, and nationalities, enjoying a life filled with luxury, private jets, lavish yachts, mansions around the world, and luxury goods from various brands. He bought whatever he wanted, living life to the fullest. After a few years of such hedonism, perhaps he suddenly realized something and wanted to return to family life. After much consideration, he finally married a female student from Denmark. The student, named Alice, had a fairy tale name and hailed from a fairy tale kingdom. With blonde hair, blue eyes, and a stunning figure, her father even held a noble title, giving her royal blood. She was pursuing her master's degree at a university, and they met at an anniversary event, sparking an undeniable chemistry. In just half a year, they were preparing to spend their lives together. The wedding was set to take place on a small island in Central America, originally bought by a Brazilian tycoon as a vacation resort. It was said that several $100 million were invested in its construction, making it extraordinarily luxurious. After the tycoon's death, his children auctioned it off, and Wu Zhan, attending the auction with his beauty, spent $1.5 billion to secure it, outbidding many competitors. Over the years, aside from dating beautiful women, Wu Zhan also attended various high-profile gatherings and elite forums, knowing that such occasions were where he could meet high-quality women. It was a win-win for him. He built countless connections while also finding romance. To ensure the wedding was exceptional, Wu Zhan hired several top wedding planning companies to collaborate. All the influential people he had befriended over the years received invitations, and the wedding budget was rumored to reach $1 billion, aiming to surpass even the most extravagant royal weddings. While luxury and extravagance could exceed others, the key aspects of a wedding were the venue and the identities of the guests, and Wu Zhan couldn't compare to those established royal families. He was a typical nouveau riche, and comparing his background to centuries-old royalty was simply embarrassing. However, he was wealthy. And being a super rich individual was not inferior to those fated royals. The world's top stars were invited, with plans to bring 10 of them to create a perfect event, generating excitement among many fans as they speculated whether their idols would receive invitations. I'm not going. With so many guests Wu Jun invited, they won't miss me, Zheng Fan said to Li Hong as the family chatted in the living room that evening. It just so happens that there is a holiday during the 11th, and I'm taking my son and daughter with me. Are you going to stay home by yourself? Li Hong said with a smile. What's wrong with that? I actually prefer some peace and quiet. Zheng Fan replied indifferently. I'm not going either. I don't like Uncle Wu. Zheng Yu wanted to stay and keep her dad company. Mom, can I not go too? Zheng Hua looked at Li Hong and asked cautiously. You can go or not. If you don't go, I'll have even less to worry about. Li Hong pretended to be angry. In the past, the house was ruled by Li Hong. The kids were small and didn't dare to oppose her. Her words were like edicts. But since Zheng Fan woke up, the atmosphere slowly changed. In just a few months, Zheng Yu and her dad had united, while Zheng Hua was still wavering. Although Li Hong still made most of the decisions, her authority was gradually diminishing. Hua, don't you like swimming? That place is a tropical island. The beach is much bigger than the school's swimming pool. If you go, you can splash around to your heart's content. Zheng Yu tried to tempt her little brother to change his mind to avoid making their mom furious. Really? Mom, can we swim in the sea? Then I want to go. You little one, a wave could wash you away. What swimming are you talking about? If you go, you're not allowed to swim. Li Hong firmly rejected him, calling him a little traitor for not being steadfast and daring to make demands. Then I want to go, Zheng Hua said gloomily. That night when it was time for bed, Li Hong deliberately ignored Zheng Fan, thinking he would come to comfort her. To her surprise, the moment his head hit the pillow, he fell asleep within minutes. Li Hong was frustrated and then found it amusing. There was no need to fuss over such trivial matters. Wasn't he there enough to worry about every day? Zheng Fan wanted to avoid the noise, but unexpectedly, Wu Jun, who should have been busy preparing for his wedding, came to his door in person with his fiancée, just to ensure he would attend the wedding. This was the first time Wu Jun had come over since Zheng Fan woke up. Compared to a few years ago, Wu Jun now had a much fuller head of hair, and although his height hadn't changed, the extra weight on him had almost disappeared, making him look younger overall. Standing next to his blonde beauty, the contrast wasn't as stark as Zheng Fan had imagined. There was a hint of a handsome man with a beautiful woman vibe. Zheng Fan, you've got quite the attitude, don't you? Did I have to come here to invite you? As soon as they met, Wu Jun confronted him. You have such a big event, and it won't be the same without me, right? Besides, isn't Li Hong representing me? Don't just stand at the door. Come on in. Zheng Fan spoke frankly, knowing Wu Jun understood his personality, and there was no need for other excuses. Let me formally introduce you. This is my fiancée, Alice Erickson. Wu Jun introduced the two before bringing the woman into the house. Nice to meet you, Mr. Zheng. Alice spoke Mandarin perfectly, with no trace of an accent, even more standard than many locals, and she would qualify to be a host. They were uninvited guests, calling him only upon arriving at the door. Zheng Fan's children had gone to school, and Li Hong was at work, leaving him alone at home, along with the robot. Your house hasn't changed much over the years, has it? Wu Jun held Alice's hand as they entered the spacious living room on the first floor with Zheng Fan. I've just been sleeping. And Li Hong has been very busy. Who has the energy to change things around? After the living room was ready, Wu Jun didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point. Brother, do me a favor. You absolutely have to come to my wedding. I'm not your father. Just a missing person. Why must I go? Zheng Fan replied, puzzled. We all know you're low-key and don't want to be in the spotlight. But what you've done is anything but low-key. The Reptile Foundation is almost on par with the United Nations, or even better, as its founder. Many people want to meet you. I promised them you'd definitely show up. If you don't go, won't that just slap me in the face? If you really have something important, that's fine, but I know you. You're just too lazy to go, right? Wu Jun, trying to fulfill his boast, used his persuasive tongue. His guess wasn't entirely wrong. The foundation's current influence was due to the board and strategic committee. Zheng Fan had been sleeping for years while others enjoyed the fruits of their labor. There was no need to meet the chicken that laid the eggs. Zheng Fan was unimpressed with Wu Jun's analogy, which made Alice chuckle. How can you be so stubborn? Do you really want me to bow to you? Wu Jun said as he stood up. Go ahead. If you do it, I'll accept you as my obedient disciple. Zheng Fan remained seated, unyielding. Wu Jun obviously wasn't going to actually bow, but he moved to the edge of Zheng Fan's sofa, wrapped his arm around his neck, and said angrily, I've noticed you've become thicker-skinned after a nap. Are you going or not? Did I say I wouldn't go? You came all the way here. I have to go whether I want to or not. Let go of me. People value integrity and reputation, and you're acting like a rogue. You have no sense of image. Zheng Fan said helplessly. We're all brothers who started this business together. If I keep being formal with you, how exhausting would that be? Chapter 256 Caribbean Island. The wedding guest list approached 1,000 people, most of whom would fly to San Juan Airport in Puerto Rico and then take a yacht to the island. There was also an airport on the island, but it was smaller, with a short runway that could only accommodate propeller planes and helicopters, not intercontinental jets. However, that was in the past. The P-616 aerospace plane developed by the Reptile Foundation could take off and land normally. This plane utilized a gravity-repelling system, and as long as there was a docking spot, it could take off and land in just a few minutes. The board members of the Reptile Foundation received no salaries or dividends, but for safety and convenience. Each director was equipped with a personal aerospace plane. It was fully automated with robotic cabin crew, capable of reaching any location on Earth within an hour. This all-electric aircraft had a wingspan of 3,000 square meters, and the new temperature differential and solar energy hybrid materials provided exceptional endurance, ensuring uninterrupted flight. The entire body was made from new composite materials, weighing only 20 tons while being able to carry 100 tons of payload into near-Earth orbit. Its speed surpassed all previously manufactured aircraft, and combined with the Reptile Foundation's global situational awareness system, it was currently immune to any air defense weapons on Earth. Due to the advanced technology of the aircraft, and to avoid disrupting the existing aviation market structure and breaking the fragile strategic balance, it has not been publicly sold to global airlines. Instead, it can only be leased at a high price or purchased under private names, with usage subject to many restrictions, allowing only a select few to qualify for boarding. After entering a suborbital trajectory at an altitude of 100 kilometers and crossing half the globe, the aircraft re-entered the atmosphere and slowly landed on a small island located in the Caribbean. Just before landing, the large wings were raised high, occupying only a few hundred square meters of airport space. Zheng Fan's family disembarked with 2 robotic assistants. This was his first time traveling abroad. The island is privately owned, but has its own nationality, though it is unlikely to have customs inspection personnel. Wu Jun and Alice were there to welcome them along with several staff from a wedding planning company. Zheng Fan felt a bit unsettled by how eagerly he had agreed to everything, but now that they arrived a day early, he finally felt at ease. No longer worried about any empty promises, they were arranged in a standalone villa not far from the main building, featuring 2 floors with 5 suite bedrooms and brand new facilities. Just a few dozen meters away was a stretch of white sandy beach, where the sea and sky blended beautifully, creating a picturesque view that left one feeling refreshed. No wonder the wealthy were keen on buying islands here. The island has a security team of over 300 robots, and the area within 100 nautical miles is under their surveillance, so safety is assured. Guests can freely swim or dive, and even take a yacht out for surfing. Here, they can play without worry. This villa will always be reserved for their family, ready for their visit anytime. Wu Jun and his wife showed them to their accommodation and then went off to attend to other guests. Dad, take me swimming. I've never swum in the sea before. Once Wu Jun left, the house was empty, and Zheng Hua immediately became lively. Yuan and Li Hong's assistant, Han Bai, did a routine check of the house inside and out, then returned to confirm safety with Zheng Fan. After putting down their luggage and changing into swimwear with various gear, the family headed to the beach. Located near the equator, the island enjoys summer all year round, with suitable seawater temperatures for swimming. The island is lush with vegetation, featuring palm trees, coconut trees, aloe vera taller than a person, cacti, and various other trees they couldn't name. The beach stretches over 1,000 meters, with soft white sand warmed by the morning sun, and the crystal-clear green water reveals many small sea creatures swimming about. Floating on his back in the warm sea, Zheng Fan felt drowsy. Not far away, his son and daughter splashed about, and he could hear Li Hong scolding the children. This familiar feeling suddenly brought him back to reality. Playing with time acceleration in the water wouldn't be pleasant, so he decided to head back to shore. Seeing him come ashore, Li Hong also brought the kids back. Lying on a comfortable beach chair, he thought, life couldn't be better than this. Dad, why aren't you swimming? We haven't had enough fun yet. Zheng Hua ran over and shook his arm. You all keep playing. I'll rest for a bit. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Li Hong asked with concern. It feels so comfortable here, very similar to the atmosphere back home. I'm afraid I might fall asleep in the sea. If you keep this up, we won't be able to enjoy good places anymore. Li Hong teased him with a smile. My dad has a tendency to fall asleep easily. He just dozes off without realizing it. Zheng Yu added. Joking aside, everyone really cares about him. Zheng Hua also stopped insisting on going into the water. Just listening to the sound of the waves by the shore is nice too. Zheng Yu built sandcastles with her brother. And whether it's due to good teaching at school or genuine talent, they managed to construct a quite impressive section of a sand Great Wall, complete with walls, watchtowers, and enemy towers that looked quite realistic. At this time, new guests started to arrive on the beach. Also a family. A couple in their 30s or 40s with prominent features, speaking a language that didn't seem like English. Accompanied by 3 children, 2 younger ones that looked even smaller than Zheng Hua, and a girl around 10 years old. The couple approached them and greeted them in English. The three kids were interested in Zheng Yu's sandcastle and went over to watch. Zheng Yu and Zheng Hua managed to communicate with them using simple English, and soon they became friends. After some exchanges, they got to know each other. The couple were the sister and brother-in-law of the bride, Alice, and they were also on the island for the wedding. The kids were lively and active, eager to get some fresh air after arriving on the island. Danish and English both belong to the Germanic language family, and Danes generally speak English quite well, so there were no communication barriers. They chatted about the beautiful scenery and the nice weather, looking quite pleased. Unfortunately, such topics quickly ran out, leading to an awkward silence. The adults' conversation was evidently not as straightforward as that of the children. Zheng Hua was having a great time playing with the two younger kids, while Zheng Yu found common ground with the older girl. Luckily, more familiar faces arrived on the beach, breaking the awkwardness. Su Kan and Li Na, a couple known for their outgoing personalities, greeted them from afar. Seeing their friends arrive, the Danish couple nodded and politely moved away. "Why didn't you let us know you were coming early? We wanted to hitch a ride on your private plane." Su Kan started complaining as soon as he approached. "How did you get here?" Zheng Fan asked. "We took Lu Yifun's plane. Isn't that the same?" "It's the same model. What's the difference?" "Of course, it's different. I wanted to chat with you more. I'm home every day, but I haven't seen you for a conversation. Just that brief moment on the plane? You're really no fun. Can't you just let it go?" The two men exchanged witty banter while the two women engaged in a separate conversation. "What's the deal with those foreigners? You seem to be getting along well. Why did they leave as soon as we arrived?" Su Kan asked. "They're the bride's sister's family. We were just in an awkward silence without any topics to discuss. But when you arrived, they kindly made way." Zheng Fan replied honestly. "What did you learn English for? It would have been good practice for your speaking skills. What happened to the enthusiasm you had earlier?" Zheng Fan couldn't be bothered to engage with this guy, wondering who really enjoyed the banter. Su Kan and his wife changed into their swimsuits, chatted for a while, and then went swimming in the sea. It was a rare opportunity to come here, so it would be a pity not to enjoy the ocean. They played by the seaside until noon before heading back together. The island covers more than 10 square kilometers and was developed by a wealthy individual as a luxurious resort, in addition to dozens of villas. There is also an apartment-style hotel with hundreds of rooms, a magnificent church, a cinema, a supermarket, a gym, and several large amusement facilities, all of which have been well constructed. Unfortunately, it had not yet opened when the owner passed away, and his children were more interested in cashing out than managing the property, which ultimately allowed Wu Zhen to take advantage of the situation. The first thing Wu Zhen did after taking over was to hire over 800 intelligent robots to continue improving the facilities on the island and to get everything running smoothly. Although the cost was considerable, the results were indeed impressive, ensuring safety, comfort, and convenience. Wu Zhen's extravagant wedding was not merely for show. He also collaborated with several wedding planning companies as a form of indirect advertising, aiming to promote the island's reputation. In the future, if wealthy individuals from home and abroad think of this place for their weddings, he could recoup some of his costs. After all, with such a large island, he couldn't possibly live there every day. Even if he did, it would be dull without visitors, and the many unoccupied villas would eventually fall into disrepair. The wedding planning companies, travel agencies, and wedding photography firms he partnered with also gained better promotional opportunities, benefiting from having a more convenient option. Everyone wins. Guest dining was organized at the hotel restaurant, featuring a buffet prepared by a professional team of Chinese and Western chefs, along with the option to order from a menu. By the time they arrived, there were already 100 or 200 guests, not only from the local area, but also quite a few foreigners, making the atmosphere quite lively. Zheng Fan's family sat with Su Kan and Lu Yifun's family. He did not recognize most of the people in the restaurant, but many came over to warmly greet Lu Yifun, Li Hong, and Su Kan, making the meal quite lively. In the afternoon, they returned to the villa without heading back to the beach. Sitting on the villa's balcony provided a great view of the ocean, and it was undisturbed, making it more comfortable than being by the sea. Li Hong and the children went to take a nap, while Zheng Fan sat alone on the balcony in a daze. Since waking up this time, he found that his physiological needs for eating and sleeping seemed somewhat optional. To avoid appearing too different, he still ate and slept as usual, maintaining an outward demeanor like that of a normal person, yet he felt fundamentally different inside. His physiological needs had diminished, but he also felt a faint sense of detachment from the world psychologically. This feeling was reminiscent of his experiences in the game. Sometimes he even questioned whether he was still dreaming. However, the reality of dreams can be easily verified, and he had tried all the methods he could think of. This was indeed the real world, despite everything developing in a dreamlike way, with discernible patterns that were completely different from the absurdity of dreams. Perhaps this was the aftermath of his training in the game. Although he hadn't ascended like in the game, he felt somewhat detached from the mundane world. As Zhou Ran mentioned, everything in the universe is composed of the vibrations of countless strings. Different vibrations create different fundamental particles, which interact to form protons, neutrons, and electrons, subsequently combining into various atoms and molecules, resulting in diverse materials and the evolution of all things in the world, generating endless space and time. To transcend all of this, one must resonate with the most fundamental strings that constitute it all. If one could actively control or guide this resonance, perhaps unimaginable power could be attained, which could be described as divine power, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Of course, these are merely Zhou Rant speculations. Zheng Fan, on the other hand, feels more like a tool, even more like a puppet. Although many things seem to be his autonomous choices, the consequences often exceed his imagination, surpassing even his best expectations. If this world is virtual, what kind of existence controls everything behind the scenes? What is its purpose? Is it to experience pleasure like we do in games? Is it a single-player game or an online game? Or perhaps something akin to a networked single-player game like Seeking Immortality? Are there deeper purposes beyond this? Can the characters in the game transcend their existence? Cheng's answer is, not now, but uncertain for the future. This implies that there is a possibility for the future. Can he transcend this world? If he actively enters that state, how long can it last? Will he open his eyes to find that 100 years, 10,000 years, or even until the end of the universe have passed? Perhaps these faint worries are the root of his sense of alienation. In a certain sense, he is no longer on the same level as most people, including his wife and children. String theory constructs a model of 11 dimensions of space and time, encompassing not only a timeline of the past and future, but also the beginning to the end of time, infinite branches, infinite possibilities, and infinite planes. A person lives for only about 100 years, akin to a small ant on a single timeline, passively crawling forward. On the timeline of humanity's hundreds of thousands of years, they are just a minuscule point. And the entire history of humanity is merely an insignificant passerby in the billions of years of life on Earth. Moreover, Earth, and even the entire solar system, are but a drop in the ocean within the observable universe. In such a world, how can one transcend? Shouldn't one adopt an idealistic perspective, seeing everything before them as illusory? Is enlightenment and transcendence achievable in an instant? If an instant can obliterate countless universes, then without thought, does existence still count? And what meaning does it hold? Initially thinking the afternoon would pass just like that, he regretted that this was not his home. Wu Zhan went to great lengths to invite him not just to attend the wedding, but also to socialize with guests. The visitors were not strangers. They were the two directors of Brainwave Technology, Jamie and Bell. One was a representative of a Wall Street financial consortium, and the other represented a Silicon Valley high-tech company. Over the years, with the continuous expansion of Brainwave Technology following a series of corporate listings, their respective employers' market shares had been steadily shrinking, leading to mergers or acquisitions, transforming them from employees into owners. Everyone holds board positions in several companies, with some serving as chairpersons, and although their shareholding is not substantial when combined, it is enough for them to amass fortunes worth billions, placing them on the rich list. Their identities are now intertwined with Brainwave Technology, inseparable from it. Hi, Zheng. It's really great to see you again. You still look so young and handsome. It's truly enviable. Jamie greeted him warmly, shaking hands and hugging him as if they were long-lost friends. Despite having met only a handful of times and never having had a private conversation, hardly qualifying as friends, Bale was not as forward as Jamie and opted for a more standard greeting. Over the years, Li Hong had represented him at board meetings, and they had become more familiar with her instead. After the initial pleasantries, they took their seats, with Zheng Fan and Li Hong on one side and Jamie and Bale across from them. Jamie, you and Old Wu are drinking buddies. What gift are you preparing for their wedding? Li Hong teased with a smile. Oh, beautiful Ms. Li. Do I really come across as just a drinker in your eyes? That hurts my feelings. Jamie feigned a dramatic display of sorrow. We've customized a sailboat together so Wu can experience the joy of being a sailor. Bale answered on Jamie's behalf. They were certainly not just there for a formal visit, as they did not share such a deep friendship. Rather, they represented certain individuals from a distant land, coming to invite him for discussions. Initially, he had refrained from traveling abroad, making it difficult for others to invite him. But now that barrier had been broken, now that they were at his doorstep, a sincere invitation felt natural. After these two left, visitors continued to arrive one after another, as if they had coordinated their appearances. Some were familiar faces, while others came with a reputation. Each guest held a significant status, with no ordinary individuals among them. Zheng Fan felt like a mascot. Most of these guests were making polite visits, exchanging words of admiration and flattery before extending invitations. Li Hong accepted on his behalf without outright refusals, always expressing gratitude for the kind invitations and saying they would visit if time permitted. Chapter 258. Old Man and Young Wife. The wedding took place the next day in a church on the island. A Gothic-style church said to be a one-to-one replica of the famous Cologne Cathedral, which took over 600 years to build. While this imitation was completed in just 3 years, the sculptures and murals inside were replicated from original designs using computer graphics, and the 2 tall spires could be seen from miles away over the sea. Guests would witness their ceremony here. Alice's family were devout Catholics. The church had not yet been officiated by a priest after its completion, so the priest for the wedding was invited from the bride's hometown. Reportedly the same priest who had baptized her, an old man in his 60s with white hair. To ensure the bride was satisfied, Wu Zhen dispatched his dedicated aircraft to Copenhagen to bring the bride's relatives, friends, and the priest, along with a choir of over 20 members. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the guests gathered at the church, and the solemn bell tolled, marking the official start of the wedding. The church doors slowly opened, and the bride Alice, dressed in a pure white wedding gown, walked down the long flower-adorned aisle with her father to the sound of the sacred wedding march. The entire scene was captured by dozens of drones, while fixed cameras recorded from various angles on the ground. Along the sides, several beautiful women in white garments scattered flower petals as they made their way to the center of the church. Wu Zhen took the bride's hand and continued forward to meet the officiant. The choir's voices rose, blessing the couple as they exchanged sacred vows and tokens, officially becoming a legally recognized couple in the presence of family and friends. The whole process was solemn yet simple, lasting an hour and a half, marking the completion of the wedding ceremony. Next, the guests moved to the hotel's grand banquet hall for a traditional Chinese feast. The wedding planning team had invited several top chefs from the region to cater for over 100 tables, each chef showcasing their signature dishes to impress the attending guests and make a name for the event. The wedding company was well acquainted with each guest's preferences and had consulted the bride and groom on seating arrangements, which were pre-planned with multilingual hosts to guide everyone to their seats. Zheng Fan's family was seated in the front row alongside several original shareholders of a tech company, all of whom had come as couples. Only Zheng Fan's family had a young child among them, while the youngest child of the Shi family was already in middle school. A stage was set up at the front of the banquet hall. After all the guests were seated, the host took the stage to thank everyone for attending the wedding of the 2 newcomers. After a brief speech, the entertainment began, featuring performances from various international stars hired by Wu Zhen to send their blessings and showcase their talents. The round table, nearly 4 meters in diameter, comfortably seated over a dozen people without feeling crowded. Zheng Fan and Li Hong sat between their 2 children, with Lu Yifan and his spouse beside them, followed by Zhang Tsong, Su Kan, Shi Xin, Su Huiyun, and Gao Hua, totaling 16 people with the 2 kids included. Plates of exquisite dishes were presented, truly a feast for the senses, as they enjoyed top-notch performances while savoring gourmet meals prepared by renowned chefs. Most guests were well-traveled individuals, but such an experience was still quite rare. Unlike typical banquet settings, guests could request additional servings of any dish they enjoyed until they were satisfied. It was said that chefs whose dishes had a high plate clearance rate could receive extra rewards. Zheng Fan, I heard that Jamie invited you to visit a certain country? Lu Yifan asked, putting down his chopsticks. Yes, they want me to come over for discussions on behalf of a charity foundation they support, along with a personal letter from the former leader. Do you think I should go? Zheng Fan recounted the situation from the previous day. The overall safety of the environment is fine. Whether to go or not is your own decision. However, there are extremists everywhere, so don't be overly confident in your skills. You can trust your instincts. Our game is a great development for the brain, and your experience should be deeper than mine, Lu Yifan said, pointing to his head. I feel that the security environment in the country is much better than in the past. I haven't really been abroad, so I'm not sure. I just wanted to take this opportunity to go out and see the world. Zheng Fan said, the popularity of intelligent robots has significantly impacted people's behavior habits. The comprehensive online and offline monitoring by superintelligent systems represents a fundamental change. Nowadays, illegal activities in public places have almost vanished in the country, and the overall crime rate has decreased by 90%, which was unimaginable in the past, but has become a reality. However, abroad, that's another world. You can experience it for yourself. Lu Yifan smiled and shook his head. The bride and groom changed into another outfit and appeared in the banquet hall to start toasting at each table. Wu Zhen wore a modified hanfu, while Alice donned a bright red dress with golden phoenix embroidery, her hair elegantly piled up with a beautiful hairpin, showcasing a complete traditional Chinese look. The age difference of over 20 years between the 2 didn't seem as noticeable. The first table they toasted was filled with the bride's relatives and elders, sitting right next to Zheng Fan's table. Alice's family, including her parents, uncles, and grandparents, all gathered together, looking cheerful and seemingly without any bias regarding the groom's age. The second table was Zheng Fan's, where none of Wu Zhen's elders attended. Only some younger cousins came to join the festivities. Since it was a family matter, others felt it was inappropriate to intervene, so they exchanged pleasantries and offered blessings to wrap things up. With over 100 tables, It was impossible for the bride and groom to toast each one personally. They would be there until dark if they did. After finishing a few tables, others took over, and the bride and groom went on stage to say a few words before exiting, while the star performances continued, and everyone resumed eating and drinking. After the banquet, Li Hong took the children back for a nap, while Zhang Fan and his tablemates went to the villa where Lu Yifan and his wife were staying to continue their discussions. The banquet tables were too large, and the background noise was too loud, making normal conversation impossible. They had to shout to hear each other, which was a pity considering the meticulously prepared delicacies that hardly anyone got to enjoy. Have you used our new gaming equipment? How effective is it? After entering the room, Zhang Tsung sat next to Zhang Fan and immediately asked this question, which was his primary concern. I still haven't figured out the reason for the recent sleep. I don't want to enter the game for now, Zhang Fan replied. It seems that Zhang Fan's situation is not universally applicable. We are all high IQ players here, and none of us could reach his level from 10 years ago. Sukin said, that is not entirely accurate. The unique brainwave technology of our equipment was largely developed under Zhang Fan's inspiration. That is what makes it universally applicable. Just because we can't achieve it now doesn't mean we won't in the future, and our limitations don't imply that others will be limited as well. Lu Yifan disagreed with Su Qin's statement. I feel that what you are saying is completely different from what we are discussing. The brainwave technology we use in the game is an ability that everyone inherently possesses, while what Su Qin mentioned is a capability cultivated by Zhang Fan, which indeed lacks universal significance and is quite difficult. It's rare for Sure Xin to express an opinion. I wonder what kind of cultivation methods you all practice in the game. My practice leans more towards the Chuanjin internal alchemy. And although the Chuanjin sect started with Wang Chongyang during the Song and Yuan dynasties, the concept of dual cultivation of life and essence has a long history. My master in the game is also one of the lineage of this sect. Zhang Fan was the first to mention specific cultivation methods to them. Previously, it was all treated as a game and not taken seriously. His abnormal physical phenomena after sleeping, especially waking up completely intact, forced those closest to him to pay attention. Facts speak louder than words. Chapter 259, Martian Utopia. Refining essence into Qi, refining Qi into spirit, refining spirit into emptiness, and refining emptiness to unite with the Tao. Is it these four realms? Sukin asked. In fact, there is a small foundational realm before these, which I have taught many people in the game. Most are stuck at the foundational stage and can't even enter the door, let alone progress further. Zhang Fan himself is not a good master. His own cultivation is muddled and unclear, so how can he guide others well? What realm do you think you have reached? Zhang Tsung asked curiously. In the game, I have broken through the last layer, which is why I can unlock other dynasties. In reality, it's hard to say. I have never deliberately cultivated, nor have I ever felt that kind of breakthrough. I'm also quite confused about what realm I am in, maybe just a beginner. Zhang Fan indeed couldn't be sure. If you were just a beginner, then us people are hopeless for life. Sure Xin said with a bitter smile. It's like when we were in school. Zhang Fan has already graduated from university, while we are still elementary school students. Who knows if we can even get to middle school or high school, let alone university. First, we should master the basics of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Lu Yifan said with a smile. Actually, whether in the game or in reality, the influence of the environment is significant. Therefore, ancient people emphasized finding blessed lands. Air quality is one aspect, but more importantly, it should be a kind of magnetic environment that allows our body and mind to harmonize more easily and resonate with the external environment. This is my personal experience. If you find a place where it's particularly easy to relax both body and mind, then that place is suitable for your cultivation. Zhang Fan rarely had the opportunity to guide these professors and felt a bit elated inside. If a person has no worries about food and clothing, and their material needs are met, they will develop higher-level spiritual needs, achievements in their career, and general social recognition. Everyone here has already reached a level that most people can achieve in their lifetime. The cultivation that they once scoffed at has become immensely attractive to them, with Zhang Fan as a real example before their eyes. They spent the entire afternoon together discussing. Among them, some were professors or PhDs, with theoretical knowledge and life experience far surpassing that of Zhang Fan. The questions they raised often inspired him, as they were things he hadn't thought about himself. In turn, his personal experiences related to cultivation allowed them to validate their own practices, and everyone gained something from the exchange. At 6 p.m, there was a buffet dinner at the hotel, the final event of the wedding. Afterward, the guests could disperse, although those who enjoyed the place could continue to stay at no cost, with meals and accommodation provided. It was a generous offer, especially considering the maintenance costs of the island. The expenses of these guests were negligible in comparison. In fact, after the wedding banquet at noon, most guests had already left. Those who remained were either close relatives and friends of the bride and groom, or individuals like Zhang Fan. who had more leisure time or were able to freely manage their schedules and decided to stay longer to enjoy the beautiful scenery. Despite many guests having departed, 200 to 300 people still filled the hall, creating a lively atmosphere. The dinner was less formal than during the day, and guests dressed much more casually. After the host's opening remarks, the bride and groom entered to dance their first dance, and soon more people joined in. Celebrities who were invited also performed from time to time, further enhancing the joyous atmosphere. Zheng Fan's family wasn't particularly fond of such occasions. They made an appearance but didn't stay long, preferring the comfort of their own home. How long are we staying here? Li Hong asked Zheng Fan on the way back. Isn't the school on a 7-day break? Don't let it affect their studies. You all go ahead. I'll take a trip around the lighthouse country before heading back. With so many invitations, it wouldn't be polite not to go. The plane is yours. We'll fly back with Lu Yifan. That's not necessary. Jamie will wait for me, and it's the same if I take his plane. If there's really a problem, one plane one team make much difference. Zheng Fan was unconcerned. He genuinely felt there was no danger. In the following days, various guests gradually left, and the small island slowly returned to its peaceful state. His family enjoyed swimming, diving, building sand sculptures, and learning to surf on skateboards. Zheng Fan even climbed to the top of a tall coconut tree to pick coconuts. They lived carefree and joyfully. As the holiday neared its end, Li Hong and assistant Han Bai took the children back home. Zheng Fan and assistant Yuan, along with Jamie who had been waiting there, headed to the lighthouse country. Their first stop was Miami, Florida, which was quite close to their island, only over 600 kilometers away. The aircraft didn't need to leave the atmosphere and could make the journey in just over 10 minutes. His itinerary had been arranged in advance. After landing, they took a special passage, keeping things simple, and soon met Tom, the former leader of the lighthouse country, who was there to pick them up. Jamie and Tom, one fair-skinned and the other dark-skinned, reminded Zheng Fan of the animated series Tom and Jerry he watched as a child. Tom was accompanied by 2 male robot bodyguards and 5 or 6 staff members. Once outside the airport, 3 black self-driving cars approached. The 3 of them got into the vehicle in the middle, with Yuan naturally staying close to Zheng Fan. Tom and Jamie also brought a bodyguard each along. Inside the car, there were 2 rows of facing seats, which made it convenient for conversation. It was the first meeting between Zheng Fan and Tom, yet they felt very familiar with each other, as if they were longtime friends. Mr. Zheng truly has courage to come here alone. Considering that there are at least millions of people who hate you deeply, Tom sincerely praised, showing that he had put considerable effort into learning the language. I'm just a technician. What do they hate me for? Zheng Fan asked. They hate you for inventing artificial intelligence that made them unemployed. Jamie interjected. It's capitalists like you who cause their unemployment. Artificial intelligence exists to improve production efficiency. Those who shift the blame are even more detestable. Zheng Fan laughed. You're right. Actually, there are many people who are already aware of the situation. However, awareness doesn't always translate into action when it comes to personal interests. Tom remarked, feeling a sense of camaraderie. Although I'm considered a capitalist, an exploiter, I personally stand with the masses. I have always been a staunch supporter of the lottery party. However, there are many things we are powerless to change. If we don't lay off employees, we face bankruptcy. What would you choose in our position? Jamie was unfazed by their teasing. What they said was true. Thus, this is not just an issue for a single person or a group, but rather a problem of our entire social system. We need a comprehensive reform plan. Such unprecedented reforms will certainly not be perfect and cannot cover every aspect. Some groups will inevitably have their interests harmed. Our existing mechanisms and the willingness of these groups do not allow us to proceed. And many uninformed people are blinded by their voices, which is why we lost our power. In just 10 years, Tom transformed from a homeless drifter into a national leader, showcasing exceptional personal abilities and pinpointing the crux of problems in his analysis. Their vehicle drove towards the small town of Homestead in southern Miami, a place with the lowest support for the lottery party. After stepping down, Tom moved here to change the public perception of the lottery party. The first impression of this small town on Zheng Fan was its excellent road construction, with no clear boundary between urban and suburban areas. It's no wonder their car ownership rate is so high. Without a car, one cannot get anywhere, as the area is just too expansive. Tom rented a 2-story house with 7 bedrooms, which is relatively large for this community. Besides himself, several bodyguards and staff assigned by the state also lived there. But he remained alone. Zheng Fan did not go to a hotel. Instead, he stayed at Tom's house. He had low requirements for accommodation, and a bedroom was sufficient. Staying together also made communication easier. Jamie took his accompanying personnel to the hotel, having completed his mission of bringing them together. After settling in their belongings, it was already dark. They had set off in the afternoon, and the whole process took several hours. On the coffee table in the living room lay an open English book titled Mars Utopia. Zheng Fan picked it up and flipped through it. It was a book introducing 12 immigrant cities on Mars. Chapter 260, titled Homestead, described how before he fell asleep, there were only a few human probes on Mars. But when he woke up, there were already 7 to 8 million human immigrants. This feeling always gave him a sense of unreal detachment. Years ago, when a certain entrepreneur mentioned that within 30 years, 1 million people would immigrate to Mars, many thought he was talking nonsense. Yet only 10 years have passed, and even more fantastical things have become a reality. What do you think of a society that has eliminated currency and offers everything for free? Oh, I forgot. This is your masterpiece. Tom walked in and asked, then made a self-deprecating remark. The current systems on the moon and Mars don't have much to do with me. You see, after I set up the board of directors and the strategic committee, I fell asleep. The specific goals and strategies were formulated and implemented by them. I've only taken a brief tour of the moon, and my understanding is quite limited. There are several experts and professors from your country working on the strategic committee and the board. Any one of them knows more about the situation than I do. Zheng Fan explained, having repeated similar sentiments many times recently. You should know the author of this book, Dr. Levon. He is also the mayor of Mars' first immigrant city, Utopia, and he led the development strategy for the entire planet. Tom said, I have a vague impression. He is a very thoughtful sociology professor. We've only chatted a few times online, and I've never met him in person. Zheng Fan recalled, picturing a bald old man with a bushy beard. He used to be my advisor. We excitedly discussed the social system to be implemented on Mars, believing it could serve as an exploration for our future governance reforms. Unfortunately, his vision has been perfectly realized, while our party has lost the trust of the public, leading to failure. Tom lamented. Any reform is bound to face challenges. How long the Martian system can endure is still uncertain. A few setbacks might actually be good for you. They can help you better understand yourselves. I'm just talking theory, so take what I say with a grain of salt. Zheng Fan felt out of his depth in front of Tom, who had served 2 terms in leadership. You're right. Everything in our past has gone too smoothly. Many comrades have started to become arrogant and complacent, underestimating the situation. Overconfidence leads to failure. This may be common sense for you, but many of our younger comrades need to stumble to learn. Tom reflected. Though it was their first meeting, the two felt a deep connection. They shared many similar views on social systems and talked late into the night in the living room before heading to their respective rooms to rest. He woke up around 5 the next morning, washed up, and took a jog with Yuan Yuan. This had become a habit he cultivated over many years. Whenever he arrived at a new place, he would wake up early to run, observing the local environment, architectural styles, the clothing of passers-by, their attitudes, and behaviors, which helped him form a concrete impression of the area. The streets here are neatly laid out in a grid pattern, resembling a chessboard, with buildings spaced far apart and high-rises being quite rare. There is an abundance of greenery, all well-trimmed, creating a stark contrast to where he lives. In terms of comfort, this place is clearly superior, but when it comes to convenience, it falls short. To buy anything, one has to travel quite a distance, and even with a vehicle, it feels unfamiliar. In the early morning, the streets are nearly deserted, and if he encounters anyone, they are usually out for a jog, nodding and greeting each other as they pass. Everyone is friendly, and his East Asian features don't seem to draw any surprised looks, suggesting there are likely many individuals of similar descent here, who have grown accustomed to diversity. With Yuan Yuan by his side, he doesn't have to worry about getting lost. They ran a large, U-shaped route around Tom's house, covering about 10 kilometers, which for him was just a warm-up. On the lawn in front of the house, Zheng Fan practiced Tai Chi after completing a series of movements. He felt as relaxed as if he had taken a hot bath. Full of confidence, he beckoned Yuan Yuan, challenging her to a match, convinced he could win. As it turned out, trusting his instincts paid off. He indeed won. Although it wasn't as easy as before he fell asleep, he achieved victory through skill. Out of 3 rounds, he won 2. While he couldn't match the robot in strength and speed, when the gap wasn't too wide, his intuition and predictive abilities proved invaluable, leaving Yuan Yuan at a loss. When I get the latest quantum chip installed, you definitely won't be my match. Yuan Yuan huffed. Has Wu Qi completed it yet? That sounds quite challenging. As if you're essentially getting a new body. Zheng Fan replied. Who knows if it will be superior to now? He added with a smile. The new quantum chip is designed to fully mimic the human brain, primarily for the use of intelligent robots like them. It extends from the brain like neuronal cells, integrating directly with tendons that control the body's skeleton, powered by energy from muscle batteries to drive skeletal movements. This design was Zheng Fan's idea, and he wasn't entirely sure it could be realized. Since Wu Qi proposed the design after he woke up, she had been busy with its implementation. From Yuan Yuan's tone, it seemed they were close to completion. While absolute strength may have decreased, our flexibility has increased, energy consumption has dropped significantly, and endurance has improved 5-fold. Most importantly, our cognitive abilities will make it impossible for you to predict our moves. Yuan Yuan said confidently. The application of the new quantum chip is expected to greatly enhance their cognitive abilities, but Zhang Fan was unsure if it would become uncontrollable. A design that is completely controllable doesn't truly exist, and any technological advancement comes with corresponding risks, which shouldn't deter progress. When they returned to the room, Tom had just woken up and came out in his pajamas. Seeing Zhang Fan return, he said, "Oh, you're up early. Just finished exercising?" "Yes. I'm used to waking up early." Zhang Fan replied. "What do you have for breakfast?" "I'll have them prepare something." Tom asked. "Just go with the local customs. Whatever you eat, just add a portion for me. I'm not picky. You should be getting used to it." "I had jianbing guozi and millet porridge today." Tom laughed. It seems that Tom not only studies local culture, but also has a good understanding of local cuisine. His robot bodyguard also serves as a private chef. And the jianbing guozi tasted quite good. It had been a long time since Zhang Fan had eaten it, and unexpectedly, he found a taste of home while abroad. While enjoying breakfast, Tom asked, "Zhang, do you have any places you want to go? You know, even though I'm about your age, I'm already retired and have plenty of time. Wherever you want to go, I can accompany you. Safety is also somewhat guaranteed. I'm not sure where to go yet. I'll stay here for a few days first. I want to enjoy the benefits of retirement." Zhang Fan replied, "That's fine, stay as long as you like. The environment here is quite comfortable. Just let me know when you decide where to go." Zhang Fan's trip this time was private, and Jamie, according to his request, did not notify any media. News about him in the local area was already a few years old, and only a small circle of people knew about his awakening. It had not been reported by the media. In this small place, no one recognized him, allowing him to stay for a few days in peace. Exploring nearby attractions with Tom's car, a highway extended directly over the sea, connecting a chain of islands. The southernmost Key West is nearly 200 kilometers from the mainland. The scenery on these islands is beautiful, with many luxurious villas built, making it a paradise for the wealthy. After returning from the sea, Zhang Fan declined Tom's company, borrowing just his car to embark on his journey. Having a former leader along would draw more attention, and security wouldn't rely solely on a few bodyguards. As long as there was no official targeting, he was confident in facing any threats. Chapter 261. Stay kind. Leaving Homestead, he drove north along the Florida coastline, enjoying the scenery along the way. In half a day's time, he reached one of the core cities in the south, Atlanta, the capital of Georgia. This city contrasted sharply with the rural landscape along the way, with many tall buildings giving it an international metropolis feel. Atlanta's airport was once the busiest in the world. The map showed hundreds of Chinese restaurants to choose from. Eating Chinese food abroad felt quite strange, so he opted for a bustling fast food joint nearby, adapting to the local customs. It was said that the African-American population in this city exceeds half, and judging by this fast food restaurant, it might be even more than that. After taking the special weight loss capsules, the once common sight of overweight individuals in his home country was still prevalent here, with several people weighing over 100 kilograms. At the restaurant, he had a beef burger and a Fanta, then returned to the car, directing it to circle around several main districts before leaving the city. After departing, he headed west and reached Birmingham, the largest city in Alabama, in less than 2 hours. On the map, it looked like a large city, and it did cover a significant area, but it was sparsely populated, truly experiencing what it meant for land to be vast and people to be few. Looking at the buildings in the urban area, they are quite similar to those in small towns in the central and western regions of the country. From the wide streets, one can see the former glory of this place, but now there are hardly any people on the streets, making it a city that is aging. Continuing southwest through the city, we arrived in Memphis, Tennessee. This city is much livelier. While it may not be as prosperous as another city, it has significantly more foot traffic than the recently passed Birmingham. There are also more modern buildings, and the streets are bustling, unlike the previous quietness. Zhang Fan had no desire to get out of the car to interact with people, nor was he interested in visiting tourist attractions. He just sat in the car watching the pedestrians and buildings along the roadside. This is the birthplace of rock music and the hometown of a famous musician, but unfortunately, he didn't see any street performers. Perhaps he just wasn't looking in the right places. The self-driving vehicle continued westward, stopping only for fuel, swiftly crossing through various states. After 2 days, we finally reached the famous gambling city. This is a city in the desert that thrives on the gambling industry. One of the 4 major gambling cities, alongside another well-known gambling destination. However, Zhang Fan felt that the latter two were just there to make up the numbers. The car drove to the city center, where he checked into a pre-booked hotel, took a good shower, and changed clothes before heading out with his companion. The hotel is said to house one of the top casinos in the area, and Zhang Fan was ready to reimburse his travel expenses. He could donate most of his assets, but essentially considered himself somewhat frugal, feeling inexplicably confident that he could win without losing. He exchanged $10,000 for chips and entered the luxurious casino hall. Rows upon rows of slot machines lined both sides, which didn't interest him. He preferred games that involved some level of prediction, ones that were quick and convenient. Suddenly, a petite girl with brown hair, appearing to be in her early 20s, approached him with a smile. Sir, do you need a guide? How much do you charge? Just whatever you feel like. I believe in your luck. My name is Ava. As she spoke, the girl reached out to link arms with him. I don't like being too close with strangers. My last name is Zhang. You can call me Zhang Fan. He stepped back slightly to avoid her grasp. Ava glanced at his companion and assumed Zhang Fan was concerned about the woman behind him. She didn't press further and directly asked, Zhang Fan, are you from Huahua? Yes, I'm here for tourism, and she is my assistant and bodyguard. Oh, I see. I'll just call you Zhang then. Your names are too hard to pronounce. Ava had seen many wealthy visitors come with beautiful robot-like bodyguards, and she turned her attention back to leading Zhang Fan further into the hall. Tables stretched endlessly in the spacious hall, surrounded by countless men and women of various skin tones, all focused and busy. Some were excited, some were frustrated, some looked vibrant, while others appeared lost. All walks of life could be seen here. What kind of games do you like? I can help you find the best spots. Ava asked as she noticed Zhang Fan's silence and continued to walk ahead. It doesn't matter which one. I need the high odds, predictive kind. I have a feeling that today is my lucky day. His words made Ava roll her eyes, another foolish guy thinking he could get rich overnight. She hoped he could earn enough tips before losing everything. Business was particularly booming today, and they wandered around for a few minutes before finding an empty spot. The dealer shook 3 dice, and everyone guessed the total. Zhang Fan took out half of his chips and bet on a total of 14, with a 12 times payout. Most people around were betting on high or low, and his unconventional choice attracted quite a few onlookers, including 2 who decided to follow him. Hoping for a bit of luck, the result was revealed. 2 5s and 1 4. He hit it. 5 orange $1,000 chips turned into 6 red $10,000 chips. The 2 who followed him shouted excitedly, and Ava could hardly believe it. This guy really had such good luck. He continued to bet on totals for 2 more rounds, but none hit, and no one followed him anymore. The orange chips were gone. In the 4th round, Zhang Fan bet 2 red chips on a total of 4 with 50 times the odds, but again, he missed. Hey, your odds are too low, you'll be broke soon. Ava couldn't help but advise. Last round. If you lose, it'll all be for nothing. If you win, I'll split it with you. What do you say? Zhang Fan asked with a smile. That's too crazy. I'd rather not bother. You should stop while you're ahead. Just go. Ava said. You're so kind, don't worry. I won't bet everything. Zhang Fan said as he placed 2 red chips down again, this time betting on a total of 5 with 18 times the odds. And no one was paying attention to them anymore. The result was revealed, and he hit again. Ava could hardly believe her eyes. The people next to her were also extraordinarily excited, as if they had won themselves. Let's go. I've achieved my goal. With 3 more purple chips and 6 red chips in his hands, Zhang Fan turned to leave. Are you a god? How do you know the results? This is unbelievable. Ava asked excitedly as she followed him. I believe today is my lucky day. You're a student, right? Yes. I study at a university in California and come here on weekends to earn some tuition. Ava replied, worried he might not believe her. This is your reward. Consider the extra part of sponsorship for your tuition. Zhang Fan handed her 2 purple chips. Zhang, you're too generous. I don't need this much for tuition. It's too much. Ava exclaimed in surprise. It was 1. Anyway, I'm just being generous with what others gave. You're very kind. I hope you always stay that way. Zhang Fan turned and left with Yuan Yuan. Chapter 262. Nicola. After leaving the casino, he took a stroll down the street. Beneath the magnificent buildings, there were many impoverished people dressed in rags. This place wasn't too much different from the impression he had before falling asleep. It seemed that Tom and the others had made limited changes to this country. Back at the hotel, Zhang Fan did not linger any longer. He checked out and continued on his journey. It was less than 400 kilometers to Los Angeles, and the self-driving car sped along the sparsely populated highway, completing the journey in under 3 hours. Zhang Fan came here mainly to visit someone and to get a glimpse of the charm of the City of Angels. Although he had seen many aspects of it online, in books, and in various films, nothing compares to first-hand experience. Unfortunately, what he saw was even more disappointing. There were many people, more than in most cities he had passed through before. Perhaps because of the large crowd, the infrastructure could not keep up. There were many dilapidated roads and buildings, juxtaposed with various tall and magnificent structures. Along the streets, there were many colorful tents, either clustered together or standing alone, housing people who love freedom. The good impression left by Homestead faded significantly upon arriving here. But then again, isn't it the same in his home country? When it comes to urban construction levels, they are still far behind. However, the gap is mainly in rural areas. And such a disparity cannot be bridged in just a few years. It requires decades of continuous investment. Their vehicle traveled from the north through the entire downtown area, heading south to Long Beach, which is said to be the largest satellite city around Los Angeles. In reality, all the cities are interconnected and back home. This would only be considered an urban district. The autonomous vehicle brought them to a massive estate situated halfway up a hillside. The gate opened automatically, and they continued for another 5 minutes before stopping in front of a 5-story main building. An elderly man with brown curly hair and a face full of wrinkles was waiting for his arrival, along with a group of people. Upon seeing him get out of the car, the man came forward and welcomed him with a warm hug. Welcome, Zeng. The old man, named Nikola, was born in Europe and, in his youth, was admitted to a prestigious university. He built his fortune of billions from scratch. While he may not be the wealthiest among the rich, his actions and words certainly set him apart. For decades, he has dedicated himself to researching future societal models and has gathered renowned experts from around the world to establish a future research institute, publishing many influential papers. He was also one of the earliest board members of the Reptile Foundation, contributing to the current societal models on the Moon and Mars, which benefited from their years of research. Nikola introduced Zeng to the group behind him, all members of the think tank at the Future Research Institute. Zeng had read most of their articles, and a few familiar faces were members of the strategic committee, while most were unknown to him, including some new members. Under Nikola's guidance, Zeng followed him into a small reception room inside the building. In front of them, there was a projection screen with a set of sofas, surrounded by half a circle of additional sofas. Nikola invited him to sit in the front, while the newcomers took seats on the lower sofas. The dozen or so attendees filled the space, preparing for a seminar, which was a bit different from what Zeng had imagined. Zeng, many of us here have admired you for a long time. Today is a rare opportunity to chat with everyone, and I hope it won't be an imposition, Nikola said with a smile. At this point, is there any point in saying that? Zeng Fan was not good at refusing, and many of these people had contributed to the foundation, so he couldn't let them feel disheartened. He could only say, I am aware of my limited abilities, which is why I established the foundation. I hope to gather like-minded individuals from around the world to jointly expand the living space for humanity's future. The scale of the foundation today is thanks to everyone's contributions, for which I sincerely express my gratitude. If anyone has something to say to me, please feel free to speak up, and I will do my best to accommodate everyone. Zeng, are you satisfied with the current system on the Moon? Despite the fact that the system there had some of our contributions, many of us are not very satisfied, feeling that the system there deprives too much freedom. It shouldn't represent the future society. A man with light brown hair and black-framed glasses was the first to speak, introducing himself as Chris. I haven't stayed there long, but I personally feel it's acceptable. A few years may not be enough to assess whether a social system is reasonable. Currently, more people want to stay there than leave, which at least indicates that many recognize the system and see the necessity for it to continue. Zeng Fan did not expect that the first question would be about such a topic, feeling quite surprised. Don't you feel constrained? There. Even saying a curse word or breaking a cup in your own room leads to punishment. Our prisons here are freer than that. Chris pressed on. I think this should be a matter of lifestyle habits and has little to do with so-called freedom. The rules there are mainly to help people eliminate various bad habits. Freedom has always been a relative concept. There is no absolute freedom anywhere. The rules on Mars are said to be relatively fewer, but there are still limitations. Zeng Fan replied. All right, Chris, you should leave some opportunities for others to ask questions. If you have something to say, you can write an article. Nikola intervened to stop Chris's continued probing. Most of the people in the room were middle-aged and older men, with only 3 women present, 2 younger ones in their 30s or 40s, and 1 elderly woman with gray hair who looked to be in her 60s or 70s. A young woman in jeans with curly hair asked, Zeng, why do you refuse all interviews? The 2 younger women sat together. One with golden shoulder-length hair was a psychologist, while the curly-haired woman, named Helena, was an independent journalist known for her series of reports on the homeless, rumored to be a contender for this year's Pulitzer Prize. I fear trouble. The more well-known you are, the less freedom you have. Zeng Fan answered. You are very special. Can you make an exception for me just this once? Helena, with her blue eyes fixed on him, pressed on. I'm sorry, I can't. Zeng Fan's straightforward refusal made many people in the room laugh, and some even gave him a thumbs up. After the laughter subsided, an elderly man with a shiny bald head, with sparse white hair at the temples, asked. The total number of intelligent robots has now exceeded 700 million, and various data systems related to our lives, such as management systems, safety monitoring systems, and communication systems, are gradually being taken over by superintelligence. Don't you feel concerned about this? Any system involving human participation is prone to corruption, with many errors and delays occurring. However, artificial intelligence can reduce these issues to negligible levels while greatly enhancing efficiency. For this reason alone, it is worth taking the risk. Zeng Fan maintains his consistent viewpoint. Even if this risk could potentially lead all of humanity into an abyss, the incredibly powerful dinosaurs existed on Earth for 100 million years, while humans have only been around for 3 million years. Whether we can survive for another 10,000 years is a significant question. Our developing technology is like a locomotive driving us towards the abyss, and while artificial intelligence accelerates this process, it may also provide a way for us to escape the abyss. Zhang Fan illustrated his view with a metaphor. Chapter 263. Hitchhiking is a vivid metaphor. The steam engine, dynamite, internal combustion engine, nuclear weapons. Each major technological invention has propelled us toward the abyss. At the same time, it has also granted us greater power. Nicola led the applause. This dialogue lasted 2 to 3 hours, during which everyone present posed questions to him, ranging from lunar and Martian colonies to the threats posed by artificial intelligence. The extreme tendencies arising from mass unemployment in various Western countries, and even his personal beliefs, there was a wide array of topics. Although Helena did not qualify for an interview, she gained a sufficient understanding of Zhang Fan. After the discussion, Nicola escorted Zhang Fan to the suite on the 5th floor to rest, once again expressing his apologies. In the evening, a welcome banquet was held specifically for him, with attendance significantly higher than in the afternoon. As the main guest, Zhang Fan had to participate. It was a kind gesture, and such customs were prevalent here, so he reluctantly joined in. Fortunately, despite being the main guest, this type of banquet was a public social occasion where everyone had their own circles. Seeing that people had no interest in continuing conversations with him, they did not persist. However, there was an exception. The female journalist Helena stayed by his side, asking question after question, from his age and birthday to how many girlfriends he had, leaving him both amused and exasperated. I've asked you so many questions. Aren't you curious about me? Why not ask me something? Helena continued her inquiries. When will you let me off the hook? If it were before the banquet, I might have said yes to your interview, but now my thoughts have changed. This woman looked at Zhang Fan triumphantly, waiting for him to ask her questions. I feel tired and want to go back to rest. Good luck. Zhang Fan turned and left. Helena was left standing there, stomping her feet in frustration at his unexpected behavior. After leaving the banquet, Zhang Fan initially planned to leave without saying goodbye, but after some thought, he felt it would be impolite. He decided to rest for the night and address things the next day. Early the next morning, Zhang Fan went for a run to the seaside to visit the magnificent Long Beach port, said to be the largest container terminal in the country. Most of the goods come from a certain country, and with the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics, this port can operate day and night for loading and unloading. Self-driving trucks transport various goods directly to warehouses across the region, eliminating concerns about worker strikes causing massive congestion. After admiring the bustling scene at the port, I turned and ran back to the estate, just as the old man Nicola was coming out to prepare for his morning exercise. I took the opportunity to say my goodbyes to him. He seemed quite surprised, but didn't say much, just indicated that I was always welcome to visit again. As the car left the estate and headed down the mountain, Yuan, sitting in the front seat, asked, "Where are we going next?" "We'll head north along the coast, visit San Francisco and Seattle, and then go east to see New York before heading back home. Since I was already here, I plan to take a good tour and see different cities. Who knows when I might have another chance." Suddenly, a loud screech of brakes interrupted my thoughts as a fiery red sports car cut in front of us, forcing our self-driving vehicle to come to an abrupt stop. I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Helena stepped out of the sports car. Yuan looked at me, and I nodded. Helena directly opened the car door and sat down beside me, angrily questioning, "What do you mean by leaving without saying goodbye?" "I already said goodbye to Nicola. I don't think I need to report to you where I'm going," I retorted. I thought my rude reply would drive her away for good, but to my surprise, she took a few deep breaths, calmed down, and smiled. "Say, you think you can scare me away? No one I've set my sights on has ever refused me." "What do you want then?" I asked helplessly. "My car broke down, and I need a ride. Wherever you're going, I can drop you off. Just take me to New York, and I'll let you go." Helena thought such an unreasonable condition would make me beg for mercy, but I surprisingly agreed. Of course, her car wasn't actually broken. It was just an excuse. The sports car's self-driving feature was activated, following closely behind us as we drove north along the highway. The two cars traveled in tandem, passing through the famous Sunset Boulevard, bypassing Beverly Hills and Hollywood, continuing north without stopping. "Aren't you curious about the Walk of Fame? You don't want to see Hollywood at all?" Helena, who had been silent for a long time in the car, asked. "There are many people curious about it back home. I've seen enough information in all forms, text, videos, and so on. I don't want to waste time there. I'd rather know more about things I can't see back home." I had my own thoughts. Where are we going again? San Francisco, Seattle. Then cross the continent to see the Great Lakes, and finally to New York. Is this your planned itinerary? Yes, my car has plenty of space. I don't mind taking you along, and you can get out anytime you wish. I'm sticking with you. I reclined my seat and closed my eyes to rest, choosing not to speak further. The female journalist did the same. She really needed to catch up on sleep, as she had only slept late last night and had to get up early today without even having time to do her makeup. The vehicle traveled silently for over 4 hours, crossing Oakland and entering the San Francisco City area via the Bay Bridge. Helena had woken up from her nap and was busy with one hand holding a makeup mirror and the other working on her face, thoroughly absorbed in her task. Do you want to eat something? Let's south hit the road without eating. Two vehicles were slowly moving through the streets of a city known for its hills. As Zheng Fan said to the reporter, who was busy drawing on her face, "Aren't you getting out? The local Chinese food is quite good," Hai Lana exclaimed. "I don't need to go abroad to taste Chinese cuisine. Eating is just about filling my stomach." Zheng Fan replied, "If I get out to eat, will you run away? Since I promised you, why would I run? Do you have a familiar restaurant? I'll treat." The entire city was built on hilly terrain, with many roads either uphill or downhill, reminding Zheng Fan of a small county at the foot of a famous mountain in another region. Many buildings had some similarities, but this place was larger and more prosperous, with a larger flow of people. They had a meal at a restaurant in Chinatown, rumored to be a century-old establishment. Hai Lana ordered in her somewhat clumsy Chinese, while Zheng Fan remained silent. The waiter, a young man with a slight southern accent, smiled and went to the kitchen after they finished ordering. In just over 10 minutes, 4 dishes and 2 bowls of rice were served, along with a bowl of egg flour soup. The food was decent, not as extraordinary as rumored, and Hai Lana didn't object. She had a good appetite, eating just as much as Zheng Fan, and they cleaned their plates, leaving not a drop of soup behind. After leaving the restaurant, they walked to the roadside to get back in the car. Yuan Yuan was still in the front passenger seat, while Hai Lana sat behind her. Zheng Fan needed to walk around to the middle of the road to get in. Just as he opened the car door, he suddenly heard someone shouting his name from not far away. He looked up to see a somewhat unfamiliar young man with a Chinese face running over quickly. "Zheng Fan, wait for me." The young man was wearing a black striped sports outfit and a white baseball cap, waving his hand as he approached, looking like he recognized Zheng Fan. Although Zheng Fan had no recollection of him, Zheng Fan got into the car and slammed the door shut, calling out to Yuan Yuan in the front, "Let us go." Their vehicle was already in motion, immediately driving forward. The young man, seeing the car about to leave, quickly pulled out a handgun from his pocket and fired several shots. But unfortunately most missed, with only one bullet hitting the rear window, causing negligible damage to the bulletproof glass. "He's trying to assassinate you." Hai Lana finally reacted and shouted, "Later than I expected, and the numbers are off. It seems there might be more to come." Zheng Fan said calmly, "I've already cut off the vehicle's positioning signal. How do we proceed now?" Yuan Yuan asked, turning around. "Let us stick to the original plan." Zheng Fan replied, "Oh, by the way, do you still want to follow us?" He asked the female reporter. "Of course. How could I miss such an exciting event?" Hai Lana quickly expressed her enthusiasm. "You might be disappointed," Zheng Fan chuckled. As the vehicle drove onto the Golden Gate Bridge, Hai Lana's red sports car followed closely behind. 2 cars were driving north along the coastal highway, without any interruptions. They stopped for fuel once, which caused a slight delay, but the vehicles maintained their top speed throughout the journey. They also witnessed a magnificent sunset over the sea. The orange sun painted the clouds and the ocean in the same hue before slowly sinking below the horizon. The colors in the sky gradually faded, and eventually, darkness enveloped the land, revealing the stars one by one. After the sunset, the vehicles left the coastline and headed inland, passing through some towns before finally reaching their destination after midnight. A movie from years ago had linked this city with romantic love, especially in the eyes of many who hold a certain fascination for it. The city's name seemed to carry a touch of tenderness. Subsequently, filmmakers came here to shoot several similar movies, which were said to have received good reviews. The city at midnight was still bright with lights, and many people were wandering aimlessly on the streets, while cars occasionally zipped by. They had already booked 2 rooms at a hotel near the Space Needle, and after checking in, they went upstairs to rest. Before entering the room, one of them lamented, "We could have easily shared one room. This feels so wasteful." The next morning, one of them went out for a morning jog. True to its nickname as the Emerald City, the air here was noticeably fresher than that of another coastal city, likely due to the region's characteristics. There were also many people exercising in the streets. With numerous lakes and rivers, the streets were quite casual in their layout, and even in the central area, there were ample green spaces and trees. As he made his way back to the hotel, he noticed a group of people practicing martial arts on a patch of green by the roadside, and curiously approached. Leading the group was a young man of Asian descent, dressed in a white martial arts uniform, practicing with great seriousness while shouting out slogans. He was practicing Xingyi Quan, a style that the onlooker had not studied much. Although he didn't fully understand the techniques, he could tell the young man had put in considerable effort into his training. His stance was solid. However, he seemed overly focused on the forms, which might limit his practical fighting ability. He would fare well against average opponents, but would likely struggle against professionals or those who were stronger. They were practicing in a public space, not shying away from being watched, and it seemed part of their intention was to attract onlookers. As more people gathered out of curiosity, he decided to return to the hotel. On the way, he received a call from a family member who was likely preparing for bed at that hour. "Dad, when are you coming back?" A familiar face appeared on the screen. "I still need 3 or 4 days. Do you miss me?" As he reached the hotel entrance and sat down in the waiting area, he noticed it was relatively quiet, with only a few staff members at the front desk. "Where are you right now?" "In Seattle. It's morning here. I just got back from my jog and am in the hotel lobby. Now it's my turn to ask. You keep asking useless questions." Zheng Yu appeared in the video. "Dad, please take more videos and photos back. We want to hear your stories later. Also, buy some fun local things. You can't come back empty-handed." "Okay, got it. I've already bought quite a lot." Zheng Fan replied. "You two study well at home, and don't make mom angry." Zheng Fan felt reassured about his daughter. She was quite mature for her age. "Make sure to stay safe. We're going to sleep now. Talk to mom." After Zheng Yu finished speaking, Li Hong appeared in the video. "Everything okay? Your husband is blessed and destined to live a long life, so don't worry." Zheng Fan comforted her. "Give the phone to Yuan Yuan. I want to ask her." Li Hong clearly was not easily fooled. The robot took the phone and hid away for over 10 minutes before returning, handing the phone back to him. Li Hong, stifling a laugh on the other end, said, "You take care of yourself." She then hung up. Zheng Fan felt a bit guilty. Having a robot that couldn't lie was indeed inconvenient, as it seemed she knew everything. No wonder she wasn't anxious after a few days without contact. There was a pizza shop operating diagonally across from the hotel, and Zheng Fan went over to buy 2 pizzas and 2 drinks before returning to the hotel lobby. "You take this pizza to that reporter and also check out our room. I'll wait here." Zheng Fan instructed Yuan Yuan. Yuan Yuan was back in a few minutes, followed by a sleepy Helena, who was pulling a suitcase with one hand and carrying the pizza bag with the other as they checked out at the front desk. After getting into the car, Helena immediately reclined her seat and continued sleeping. Once they left the city, they headed east. It was autumn in the northern hemisphere, with vast fields of harvest and patches of green trees. The vehicle passed through sparse small towns, and by around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, they arrived at Helena, the capital of Montana. It was said to have a population of only over 20,000, which would be considered a town back home, but was a capital here. This was the first time he had heard of this city, and its name was similar to that of the female reporter, just 1 letter different. He had heard that gold mines were discovered here back in the day and that it once thrived, but that was over 100 years ago. Perhaps the grandfathers of the local cowboys were once gold miners. Helena seemed uninterested in this city, which sounded somewhat like her name. After taking care of her needs, she got back in the car to continue sleeping. Along the highway, there was a small town every 40 to 50 kilometers, never more than 100 kilometers apart. These were all cities with independent administrative bodies and elected mayors, prosecutors, etc. Compared to larger cities, the sense of unemployment in these agrarian areas was not as pronounced. The robot could significantly enhance efficiency, but there were still many jobs that could not be replaced. After all, the people here were already poor, and it seemed they could manage even if they got a bit poorer. They traveled through Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois, finally arriving in Chicago. After driving continuously for a day and a night, with only a few stops at gas stations, most of the 24 hours were spent on the road, covering over 2,500 kilometers. By the time they entered the city, it was already night. Chapter 265, Flea Market. Surprisingly, there was a traffic jam on the city roads at night, with the sound of gunfire ahead indicating danger. The female journalist, who had mostly been sleeping since getting into the car, suddenly perked up and focused on what lay ahead. Fortunately, the gunfire was brief, and after about 10 minutes, the traffic started to move. As they passed the scene of the recent shootout, they heard the sounds of ambulances and police cars, and saw a few people lying on the sidewalk, some still twitching. Their booked hotel was the second tallest building in the city, featuring 2 Lakeview suites on the top floor with a stunning view of Lake Michigan. The price was quite high, double that of similar rooms in Seattle. Thankfully, the travel expenses for this trip had been advanced in Las Vegas, so there was no need to be overly frugal. Apart from gas and 2 hotel stays, the cost of meals was negligible, and they hadn't spent much at all. A shootout happened right in front of us. "Aren't you scared at all?" Helena, who had been asleep for over 20 hours in the car, was wide awake as they entered the hotel, reluctant to leave his room. "They weren't targeting me. Why should I be afraid? There were so many people on the street at that time. I heard that your country has strict gun control. Do you know how to shoot? Should I take you to see what it's like?" "There's no need for that. We prohibit ordinary citizens from carrying firearms. But there are shooting clubs where one can learn. My shooting skills are quite good, but I don't need to practice just for fun." Zheng Fan declined her offer. Sitting on the sofa by the floor-to-ceiling window, he could see the dark surface of the lake in the distance, as well as the night view of the city below, giving a feeling of looking down on the world. "Aren't you at all interested in me? Or do you not like women?" Helena lay on the bed, propping her head with one hand and adopting a seductive pose. "I have a wife and a family. You're very charming. But you shouldn't keep trying to cross boundaries. Otherwise, we won't even be able to be friends." Zheng Fan said seriously. "All right, I understand your point. Good night. Helena got up to bid farewell and finally left the room. Zhang Fan sat on the sofa for a while longer before returning to bed to rest. Since waking up this time, he had not had any more dreams. Every night before sleeping, he thought about what time he should wake up the next day, as if his brain were set with an electronic clock, and it had never failed him. He had also tried staying awake for over 30 hours, feeling completely alert without any fatigue, almost like a robot. As dawn broke, he left the hotel, running over 100 meters north before heading east for less than a kilometer to Navy Park, which featured a long pier extending over 1,000 meters into Lake Michigan. There were very few pedestrians on the street, and Zhang Fan ran all the way to the easternmost part of the pier, which was a small square, completely empty at that moment. The sun slowly rises over the vast lake, and at the easternmost end of the square stands a more than 5-meter-high iron anchor. With the rising sun and the shimmering lake surface as a backdrop, a nice photo was taken. Looking west from here, one can see a skyline filled with tall buildings, including their hotel and the tallest building, the iconic structure, as well as the elegant building designed by a female architect, whose curved shape is indeed unique. After taking the photo, Zhang Fan left the naval park with Yuan Yuan and jogged around the area, filled with skyscrapers. Perhaps gang members are used to staying up late. Or maybe the security in this area is relatively good, as they did not encounter any scenes of being threatened with a gun, which left him slightly disappointed. Upon returning to the hotel, Helena had already checked out and was waiting for him in the lobby. They bought 2 specialty hot dogs from a street-side fast food joint and continued on their way. Helena asked, "Are we going straight to New York? We should be able to get there before dark. It's over 1,000 kilometers." Zhang Fan thought she was about to leave, but was surprised she was still there. "I always see things through. Of course, I'll accompany you to the end." Helena's response was unexpected. "I don't need you to accompany me. You're just hitching a ride." Zhang Fan replied helplessly. "Just so happens I also want to see the falls, so it's on the way." Leaving Chicago, they continued east along the lakeshore and reached the important city of Cleveland on the southern shore of Lake Erie around noon. This city was once a hub of the oil and steel industry and a transportation hub for rail and waterway, but unfortunately, its former glory is no more. The contrast between homeless drifters, chaotic neighborhoods, and tidy, affluent areas was stark, and the city gave Zhang Fan a sense of slowly aging. After having lunch in Cleveland, they set off again. Not long after getting back on the road, they saw a second-hand flea market by the roadside. Remembering his daughter's request, Zhang Fan shouted to stop and prepared to get out and browse, and of course, Helena wanted to join in on the excitement. This was not a fixed large market, but a temporary market organized by community residents. There was no entry fee. It was mostly households selling unwanted old items, many at prices that were practically giveaways just to clear space. Various toys, Barbie dolls, Transformers, superhero figurines, cards, as well as cups, plates, utensils, and baby products were all available. There were also large pieces of furniture and appliances, some antiques decades old, alongside things that looked relatively new, all at very low prices. This was a predominantly white community, with many of the vendors being white women, along with a few Asians and Latinos. Most people knew each other and gathered to chat. And many stalls had no visible sellers, requiring buyers to call out loudly to get someone's attention. Zhang Fan was not very interested in most items and quickly browsed through the small market. Finally, at one stall, there were various figurines, dozens of them in different sizes, with more than half of them unfamiliar to him. A 20-something blonde woman stood motionless next to the stall. "How much is this?" Zhang Fan pointed at a chubby brown bear plush toy and asked, but the vendor remained still. Helena, who was beside him, laughed and said, "It's a robot produced by a company, and it should also be for sale. We can buy and sell freely here." The vendor was a plump white woman in her 50s. Seeing them linger, she came over from a distance and said, "What do you like? It's definitely cheap. Buy one get one free, and the more you buy, the more you get. These are things my son has saved for many years. He spent quite a bit of money on them." Zhang Fan bought a brown bear and a mermaid, and the vendor gave him a sea king and a gorilla for free. The prices were indeed very low. "Are you selling your robots too?" "How much?" Zhang Fan asked, pointing at a blonde robot. The vendor looked at him, then at Helena beside him, and the round figure following them, smiling as she said, "Of course. I bought it for $80,000 2 years ago, and you can have it for $50,000. Helena quickly stopped him, saying, "Do you really want to buy it? It can't compare to your assistant. Its intelligence is very low and can only understand simple commands. There are some things that high-end robots can't do. Our robot can be renamed at will and will absolutely obey commands. Sir, you can transfer ownership for just $40,000. The vendor noticed that they were not in a couple or romantic relationship and was eager to close the deal, so she proactively lowered the price. The control and transfer of the robot required a specialized mobile app, but fortunately, downloading and installing it was not complicated. After a few minutes, the transaction was completed. The transferred robot needed a reactivation process and had to recognize its owner by scanning Zhang Fan's face and voice, so it would only obey his commands. Of course, he could also grant permissions to others, similar to user groups in an operating system. Zheng Fan issued a few simple commands, and the robot named Sansa was able to recognize them. Its speech and walking actions were quite normal and standard, appearing indistinguishable from a human at first glance. However, when combined with others, the differences became apparent. It did seem a bit silly, much like a host speaking in a broadcast tone in daily life or a soldier marching in a precise manner. After leaving the flea market, they hit the road to continue to Buffalo, where the Great Waterfall is located. Zheng Fan began to study the robot's code. The company was founded by a group of senior artificial intelligence experts from Silicon Valley and initially received considerable support from several large corporations to develop their own controllable superintelligence. Many similar startup companies were established in a frenzy, but a year later, only 3 remained, and to date, only this company has developed an applicable superintelligence, Gaia, and later created this humanoid intelligent robot. To be fair, the robot's visual and auditory recognition abilities and motion balance capabilities were already very well done. However, the most complex and power-consuming aspect was its overall judgment ability, which had not made much progress. Of course, without comparison, it was already quite excellent. Unfortunately, with the presence of brainwave robots, these machines can only be relegated to factory labor. Their movements are standardized, and they possess much greater strength than humans, making them perfectly suited for such tasks. Moreover, the robots produced by Daegu are sold as disposable products, with a 1-year warranty to reduce costs, which has made them popular among factory owners in certain regions. In just a few years, their shipment volume has matched and even surpassed that of brainwave robots. To expand their market, Daegu launched a more expensive line of high-end robots, obtaining technical authorization from a certain laboratory. These models are designed to be more lifelike, with the same core as the lower-end versions, but equipped with different knowledge databases. They can handle simple household chores and even assist their owners with physical needs, essentially serving as high-end silicone dolls, priced at up to $80,000. Yet they still manage to sell quite well. The model bought by a certain individual is one such high-end product, capable of performing tasks that others cannot. The encrypted decompilation program was certainly not a challenge for this individual. The real difficulty lay in the sheer volume of code, over 1 billion lines, making it quite overwhelming. It's no wonder that the intelligence of these robots isn't high. Such bloated code consumes too much computational power, and achieving their current performance is already impressive. Within such a cumbersome program, there must be a lot of ineffective code, requiring significant effort to identify each one. However, with ample time on the road, he could take his time to study it. Fortunately, his mind was exceptional, and he quickly discerned patterns within the code, gradually clarifying the designer's thought process. This made reading the code much faster, allowing him to easily differentiate several major functional modules for more in-depth understanding and research. Buffalo, also known as the City of Water Buffalo, reportedly had herds of wild buffalo roaming its lands long ago. After the city was established, it prospered through steel manufacturing, machinery production, and shipping, becoming the second largest city in a certain state. Like Cleveland, it has begun to decline, but due to its historical foundation, strategic transportation hub location, and the efforts of past mayors to promote urban transformation, it has not faced a rapid decline like some purely industrial cities. Their vehicle continued without stopping, and by the time they reached Buffalo, it was already past 6 in the evening. Deeply engrossed in the code, he lost track of time until reminded by his companion. He lifted his head to see the distant scene of cascading waterfalls. "Should we go take a look?" she asked. "No need," he replied, taking a few photos with his phone before returning to the car to continue his coding work. "Should we book a hotel with a view of the waterfall? Just a glance is enough. Let us head to the next destination." She was speechless, wondering why they had traveled for hours just to take a distant look. But then again, wasn't he that how they had spent the last few days? They passed through Binghamton, crossed Scranton in Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, continuing for another 5 or 6 hours. Finally, just before midnight, they entered the city limits of New York. Along the way, he had also completed a preliminary review of the entire robot code, modifying several key areas before recompiling and executing it. The robot, which had been lying in the back seat, rebooted, opened its eyes, and said, "Is this New York? How do you know it's New York? I saw buildings that can only be found in a certain city." The robot, Sansa, spoke with a voice that felt much more natural than before, and its responses showed a certain logic. "Do you know me?" Helena curiously turned around and asked. "You are Helena. How do you know me? I heard your conversation earlier, so I know your name." Helena and the robot exchanged questions and answers, with Sansa becoming increasingly articulate. Helena was more and more surprised. She had encountered many robots before, but never expected such a significant change from just a simple code modification by Zheng Fan. Witnessing this transformation firsthand felt miraculous, and it was no wonder that he could invent superintelligence. Truly an extraordinary programmer. "We've arrived. Where will you get off?" We can take you there. Zhang Fan interrupted their conversation. The female reporter, who was still immersed in her admiration for Zhang Fan's technology, suddenly remembered that their agreement had been fulfilled and that she had no reason to linger any longer. The car stopped at the apartment building where Helena was staying. Reluctantly, the female reporter got out of the car, and the robot Sansa followed her, standing beside her. Thank you for keeping me company. This robot is a gift for you. As a memento, Zhang Fan did not get out of the car, but waved goodbye. Helena then understood why the robot had also exited the vehicle. She initially thought Zhang Fan would escort her upstairs, but it seemed she had misinterpreted the situation. Returning home after just a few days felt like an eternity. She turned on the TV, which was broadcasting news about another city, where several key members of a gang had been arrested. It was reported that the police had solid evidence linking them to multiple assassination cases. The footage showed the very restaurant where they had dined a few days ago. One of the young men being taken away by the police had even served them their meal. This must be related to that guy, right? Helena muttered to herself. Chapter 267. The reception seeing Helena get out of the car obediently without any trouble made Zhang Fan secretly breathe a sigh of relief. She was quite a handful. Yuan. Let us take a tour around the city and experience the night views. In the 17th century, the British seized New Amsterdam from the Dutch, and King Charles II brother, the Duke of York, relocated his territory here, renaming it New York, which means New York in a translated sense. By the end of the 18th century, George Washington was sworn in as the first president in New York City, which was also the earliest capital of this nation. The Hudson River separates New York City from a neighboring state, with the eastern part of New York divided into Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. The core area is undoubtedly Manhattan, home to famous sites such as Central Park, Times Square, Wall Street, Broadway, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the United Nations headquarters, and the Empire State Building. It truly deserves the saying that land here is more precious than gold. Upon entering from the neighboring state, they first arrived in Manhattan. After leaving Helena's apartment, the car slowly made a loop around the entire area. Everywhere they looked were towering skyscrapers, dazzling lights, and bustling vehicles. Many people say that nights here are unsafe, yet there were still many people out and about, seemingly unafraid. After witnessing the over 2,000-meter-tall buildings on the moon, Zhang Fan had become immune to the skyscrapers that stood just hundreds of meters tall on Earth. Although standing on top and looking down still made him feel small, the shock had diminished significantly. Zhang Fan had no intention of seeking thrills in the lower city. After a simple drive around, he arrived at the hotel he had booked in advance. Less than half an hour after checking in and having just finished a shower, he received a visit from Jamie and Belle, whom he hadn't seen for a few days. Haha, Mr. Zhang, it wasn't easy to find you. No wonder you are so confident coming here alone. Jamie exclaimed with a laugh upon meeting him. In our country, as long as one doesn't break the law, everyone's privacy is well protected. You can go anywhere at any time, day or night. Here, I don't feel that way. Zhang Fan retorted without hesitation. Undeniably, we are lagging behind in many aspects, which is one of the reasons I joined the lottery party. The past system was one of the roots of our strength, but now it has become our shackles. Jamie's perspective was different from most. Mr. Zhang, on behalf of Dagu Company, I want to thank you. The modifications you made to the robot code have been immensely helpful. I wonder what kind of compensation you would like. Belle, who had been silent until now, spoke up. He was also involved in the development of artificial intelligence at Dagu Company and was one of the important shareholders there. No need for compensation, just don't sue me. Zhang Fan replied. I have a friendly reminder. Your pursuit of absolute control might actually become a source of danger. Belle had to take his words seriously and immediately asked, why do you say that? In our country, we have an idiom that says extreme things will reverse. Dagu Company strictly limits the robots programmatically. Yet there are no control measures on their usage, treating them purely as commodities. It's too utilitarian. We are also a commercial company. We must pursue profit. This isn't a decision I can make alone. Belle defended himself. Seeing his unconvinced expression, Zhang Fan realized he wasn't getting through and decided not to elaborate further. The two had not only come to visit, but also to invite Zhang Fan to an important social event. He was no longer the insignificant figure he once was. Now that he was in this region, many big shots wanted to meet him. However, only a few could actually have a conversation with him. So many reached out to Jamie, leading to the gathering of people to get acquainted. Zhang Fan personally disliked attending such events, but since he was in their territory, it would be inappropriate not to meet these influential figures. Moreover, they were not just local big shots. Each controlled vast assets and had countless connections. Their influence comparable to that of national leaders. Reaching a certain level of consensus with them would elevate the actual influence of the Reptilian Foundation. This country was founded on finance, with capital wielding the greatest power. The nominal heads of state and the members of Congress, who held the highest authority, were merely their employees. Countless capitals have gathered into hundreds of banks, among which the most representative and powerful are the prominent institutions, along with some notable local banks. Families that have been passed down through generations are often shareholders of major banks or control several stable and profitable enterprises. In this context, lineage does not inherit power. Controlling sufficient capital and connections equates to wielding power, which requires significant talent and ability. This is also true for powerful families. Without exceptional heirs, they too may gradually weaken or be consumed. With the advancement of technology, the speed at which humans create wealth is increasing, and a new class of wealthy individuals relying on high technology is growing stronger. Meanwhile, established wealthy families are gradually retreating from the public eye. This is not due to their heightened awareness, but rather the high platform provided by their predecessors, which also confines their vision. Those who can make money effortlessly may not wish to take risks and endure hardships. Nonetheless, those with particularly prestigious surnames still attract more attention at such gatherings, as they inherently start from a higher starting line. Most people toil their whole lives and still cannot reach their starting point. At the event, Jamie introduced Zheng Fan to a dozen individuals with notable surnames: Morgan, Rockefeller, DuPont, Mellon, Koch, Bush, Adams, Mackey, etc. These individuals, both men and women, are generally over 40, with young people almost absent. Those qualified to attend this gathering are not ordinary individuals. Even if one possesses an impressive surname, without notable achievements, they wouldn't receive an invitation. The event was held at a sprawling estate across the Hudson River, a symbol of status given its size near New York. It is said that Jamie spent $1.9 billion on this venue, which is even more expensive than Wujan's Caribbean island. As the event began, Zheng Fan declined Jamie's request to give a speech, as this was not his forte. He preferred to make an appearance. The views of these individuals cannot be altered by a single speech. Those who genuinely wish to communicate can do so privately. Because of this, he was always surrounded by a large crowd asking him questions, creating a somewhat unfriendly atmosphere. Zheng, as far as I know, the cities you are building on Venus and Europa have met the conditions for immigration. Will public ownership be implemented there? Will it be an indiscriminate acceptance of immigrants like on the Moon and Mars? Asked a bespectacled woman from Boston, introduced by Jamie as Linda Koch. The Moon and Mars can be said to operate on a free supply system, which cannot be classified as public ownership. In the future, all immigrant cities under the Reptilian Foundation will adopt such a basic system, though there will be certain differences in specifics. We believe this is the most suitable system for humanity in the future. Zheng Fan replied, "What is the difference between a free supply system and public ownership?" Chapter 268. Here for you. Faced with the woman's questioning, Zheng Fan felt a bit helpless, unsure if she genuinely didn't understand or was just pretending to be confused. Seeing the curious expressions of many around him, he had no choice but to continue explaining. The Reptilian Foundation is a non-profit public charity. All the immigrant cities we have are part of a large social experiment, and all material needs are provided by us. We are not a country, but the wealth and land you control have already surpassed all countries. This is also the reason for the establishment of the Reptilian Foundation. Everything we possess belongs to all of humanity, not to any one person or a portion of people. These issues have been clearly explained in our public information. I don't want to repeat myself. Can you explain why the population from your country occupies the largest proportion among the many immigrant cities? This was the first time he had heard her raise such a question. If it's true, all he could say was, "Those who are close to the water get the moon first." The other party was aggressive, and Zheng Fan no longer had the patience to explain. Thinking they could believe whatever they wanted. Just as he thought he had escaped from Helena, he encountered another bothersome person, Linda. Jamie noticed that Zheng Fan was a bit displeased and quickly interrupted her incessant questioning, saying, "All right, this is not a press conference. Mr. Zheng needs a break." After following Jamie to a room behind the banquet hall, Zheng Fan loosened his uncomfortable tie and regretted coming to this place. What kind of people are these? Treating him like a criminal being interrogated? "I'm sorry, Mr. Zheng. I originally wanted to provide an opportunity for everyone to communicate and clear up misunderstandings. But I overestimated these people." Jamie apologized, regretting that he had sent out invitations to showcase strength, realizing some individuals' biases were too deep and they shouldn't have been invited. "I know you didn't mean it. Anyway, I'm here now, and I've met the people. I'm going back. Tomorrow I'm returning home." Zheng Fan prepared to head back to the hotel. Such a cocktail party was purely a waste of his time. Convincing people was not his strong suit. He thought it would be better to just daze off for a while. No wonder this country is getting worse. Just look at these so-called power holders, and you can understand a thing or two. Compared to their ancestors, they are far inferior. Occasionally looking from a high vantage point can broaden one's perspective. But if one always looks down on others from above, they might end up like these people, taking everything they have for granted, viewing the achievements of others as their own blessings, believing they should be grateful and worshipped. "The cocktail party has just begun. Why don't you rest here for a bit and return later?" Jamie said, feeling a bit troubled, as the main guest was about to leave, which would embarrass him greatly. "All right, You go attend to your guests. I'll stay a little longer. Zhang Fan didn't want to hurt his feelings too much. Thinking about it, these families with generations of legacy had long lost their actual influence. In the past, the Standard Oil Company controlled by the Rockefeller family dominated 90% of the oil extraction, refining, and distribution in the country. Yet it was forcibly broken up by the government. During the peak of the Morgan family's influence, they controlled 1/3 of the national financial capital and over 60% of the insurance industry. More than 30 major companies had directors dispatched by Morgan, and Wall Street had to heed the commands of old Morgan. Even creditors from several countries had to face inquiries from Congress. One tends to overestimate these individuals. Their ancestors, at their peak, could not dictate terms without opposition, let alone their descendants, whose influence has diminished significantly. While their asset figures may surpass those of their forebears, the actual power has long been dispersed across layers. If these individuals could unite and speak with one voice, they might have some effect. But the reality is that even if old Morgan were to return, he could not resolve the myriad of conflicting interests among so many people. Given this situation, it suffices to have the support of a portion of the people. Not everyone needs to understand or support them. Those who are out of touch will ultimately be cast aside by the times, which is a price they must pay for their choices. The room where Zhang Fan rested was over 40 square meters, with a 4 to 5 meter wide window facing south, allowing a view of the situation at the manor's entrance. By this time, all expected guests had arrived, and the manor's gates were closed, with various vehicles parked in front of the main building. With the rise of autonomous driving, fixed driver seats have disappeared, and vehicle designs have changed significantly, showcasing a variety of unique shapes: round, square, tall, short, reflecting individual styles. Suddenly, the manor's gates opened, and a convoy of about 10 vehicles entered, all with traditional designs. The convoy stopped in the courtyard, and a group of dozens of individuals dressed in black suits resembling bodyguards emerged. Some of the bodyguards entered the main building, while others dispersed throughout the manor to conduct checks. These individuals were agents from the Federal Security Agency, and judging by the scale of the operation, their leader was coming. Yuan, who had been following Zhang Fan, remarked, "Could it be that they are here for me? It's definitely for you. They have requests." "How do you know?" "Just wait and see. After all, you can't leave now." Yuan replied with a smile. The presence of a head of state is significant. After the security personnel completed their checks, which took half an hour, the guests had not yet arrived, and no one was allowed to leave. Jamie returned to the room, visibly excited, and said to Zhang Fan, "I just received word that Commander Chris will be coming soon to meet you. Can I refuse?" Zhang Fan asked incredulously. "That's a federal commander. Seriously? You can't refuse. This is a big deal." Jamie exclaimed, surprised. "All right, I want to put you in a difficult position." Zhang Fan sighed. After all, Jamie had met more than one commander and was known to be close with Tom. It was hard to understand why he was so excited about meeting a commander from a certain party. You might not realize what this means. Commander Chris has always had a dismissive attitude toward our brainwave technology, but now his government is struggling with unemployment issues. His initiative to come and meet you is a sign of a softening stance. This is a significant advantage for our company. Jamie explained seriously. "Hope it goes as you wish." You can't imagine how expressive those guys outside were just now. The ones who made things difficult for you earlier are supporters of Chris, and it seems they've just received a couple of hard slaps. Jamie said gleefully. Time passed second by second, and after more than half an hour, the leader finally arrived. There was no change of room. They were still in the same small reception room. Leader Chris entered along with his chief of staff, George. Jamie knew both of them and took the initiative to introduce each other. In fact, they were already familiar with one another and would certainly not mistake each other. This introduction was more of a formality. Chris took the initiative to shake hands with Zhang Fan, smiling and saying, "Mr. Zhang, I have admired you for a long time, and I sincerely wish to consult you today." Zhang Fan expressed his dissatisfaction, saying that there was no need for such a grand display when the leader could simply call him over. The leader is busy and only just learned of Mr. Zhang's situation. "He was eager to meet you, and I hope you won't take it too seriously," explained Chief of Staff George. This explanation was worse than saying nothing. It revealed an arrogance similar to that of the earlier group. Zhang Fan was too lazy to pick a fight with them. The leader could meet whomever he wanted, and sometimes, the power of those around him was greater than the leader's, especially for an outsider like him. "I heard that Mr. Zhang has been in deep slumber for 8 years to cultivate a longevity technique." Leader Chris asked eagerly. His words caught several people off guard, including his chief of staff George, who wore a look of astonishment. "It was a slight mishap during my cultivation in a brainwave game that caused me not to wake up in time. The specific reason is still unknown," Zhang Fan said, unsure of his true intentions, and had to resort to a public explanation. "Can this technique really grant longevity?" Chris continued to inquire. "Longevity is merely a description, not the ultimate result of cultivation. Our brainwave game Seeking Immortality is about seeking the highest realm of cultivation within the game, a state that transcends the existing world. Zhang Fan wasn't sure if the explanation would be understood, and discussing such matters in English was somewhat challenging for him, as it wasn't his native language and he hadn't had many opportunities to use it before. Jamie, who was fluent in both languages and a seasoned player of the game, quickly took the initiative to reorganize Zhang Fan's words and translate them for Chris. I heard that during the more than 8 years, you had neither food nor liquid intake, and your body remained in perfect condition. Is that true? Chris pressed further. Indeed. Zhang Fan replied. Oh my god, may I know how you accomplished this? According to the game's timeline, I have cultivated for 2 lifetimes, nearly 200 years. But as far as I know, your game has only been out for 10 years? Zhang Fan explained. This is the wonder of brainwave games. They allow us to experience a long and varied life in a very short time. However, this depends on the level of brain power development, and everyone is different. There aren't many people like me. Do you think someone my age still has hope of reaching the kind of realm you mentioned? This is quite similar to our schooling. Not everyone can pursue a doctorate and become a scientist, but as long as one studies diligently, everyone will gain something valuable. Do we need to put in the same effort as you? There are many paths to the same destination. All techniques in the game lead to the same goal, which is a refinement of the spirit. This practice affects our physical selves in reality and is a deep development of our brains. Regardless of whether you are a devout believer or a shaman, as long as you practice sincerely, you can reach the highest realm. Chris had been asking about matters related to the game for over 2 hours, inquiring about issues encountered during practice, etc. Meanwhile, Chief of Staff George and host Jamie became mere spectators. It was getting late, and not wanting to delay Mr. Zheng's rest, Chris expressed hope for future opportunities to seek his guidance. Mr. Jamie, thank you for your warm hospitality. Goodbye. Chris stood up to take his leave and, surrounded by a large entourage, hurried off just as he had arrived. The convoy of the leader drove for over half an hour before the last batch of agents from the Federal Protective Service withdrew from the estate, allowing the guests to leave freely. It was evident why he could be a leader. His methods were on a different level compared to those outside. They didn't even discuss specific issues. Simply coming to see you personally conveyed their stance, making further discussion somewhat trivial. On the return trip, Zhang Fan declined Jamie's kind offer and did not take his aircraft, but instead boarded a regular passenger plane from a national airline, taking over 10 hours to reach home. It wasn't due to safety concerns, but Zhang Fan felt that he might not have many opportunities to experience such a jet in the future, so he wanted to have one last ride. After exiting the airport, Zhang Fan and Yuan took a self-driving taxi, and they returned home smoothly. The children were already asleep, and Li Hong was preparing for bed. Zhang Fan's sudden appearance indeed surprised her. Why didn't you call us so we could pick you up? Li Hong complained. Taxis are very convenient now. There was no need to trouble you. Are you hungry? I can make you a bowl of noodles. No need to bother. Let us talk about it tomorrow. Go to sleep. Don't disrupt your regular routine. The children woke up excitedly when they realized their father was back, and they felt even more energized during their morning practice. After finishing their exercises and returning to the room, Zhang Fan distributed the gifts he had brought back. Many were interesting items purchased during his travels across the continent, including local specialty agricultural products, exquisite handicrafts, dolls, small sculptures, metal goods, leather products, and more. He had gathered a big bag full of items, making his long journeys from east to west and back worthwhile. After distributing the gifts and finishing breakfast, Zheng Yu and Zheng Hua happily went to school. Zhang Fan and Li Hong began to share their experiences during this time, mainly about the people met and events that occurred at the 2 gatherings on the east and west coasts, which were closely related to her work. Isn't your true purpose in meeting Chris to seek immortality? Li Hong asked, puzzled. Like those who deliberately make things difficult for me. They want to collaborate with us to solve their own problems while maintaining their lofty demeanor. However, his approach is much more sophisticated than theirs. We don't need to rush to ingratiate ourselves. They will take further actions, and we will deal with it when the time comes. It's enough not to make things intentionally difficult for them. Zhang Fan explained. It feels too lenient towards them. They are the ones who instigated the conflict. And now that they can't hold on, they turn back to seek our help. We shouldn't nitpick with them, nor should we indulge their bad habits. Our goals are different, and there is no need to take them too seriously. The Foundation has long had its own office building, managing mining supplies across several planets. It has business dealings with over 100 countries and countless companies on Earth, dealing with tourism and research applications, immigration background checks, spaceship research and construction, and route planning and management. Although most calculations are handled by superintelligences, human coordination is still needed, as many places abroad do not have widespread access to superintelligences and robots. After years of development, the Foundation now has over 100 branches globally, with hundreds of thousands of employees, dozens of holding companies, and over 200 affiliated companies, controlling assets worth over 100 trillion yuan, with an average annual growth rate exceeding 20%. This is just the situation on Earth, excluding the immigrant cities and populations on other planets. Such scale indicates that the Foundation has no intention of aggressively expanding or merging, as it does not wish to abruptly disrupt the existing economic balance. Otherwise, the actual scale would be even more terrifying. With over 80 fusion nuclear power plants spread across the globe, the Foundation monopolizes 70% of the world's electricity supply, generating 500 trillion kilowatt-hours annually. It also controls the transmission and transformation networks, as well as some communication networks, for nearly 3 billion people in Africa, Central and South America, the Middle East, West Asia, and Eastern Europe. The output value of just this portion already surpasses that of most countries worldwide. Additionally, the Foundation controls over 30% of the global supply of steel, copper, and aluminum, and more than 50% of other rare metals. The construction company utilizes the advantages of nanorobots, monopolizing over 60% of large-scale construction projects globally. With the water supply issue resolved, a large quantity of agricultural and livestock products from the Lulan base will be directed towards supplying Earth. It is foreseeable that this will be an industry with significant advantages, and if they wish, it could lead to the unemployment of most farmers and herders on Earth. Nominally a public welfare organization, its strength has surpassed that of any country. The Foundation does not have an army. Yet all the armies of the nations must heed their wishes. Their technology can render all high-tech weapons useless, relying only on the quality of individual soldiers. And the robots they command are unafraid of attacks from any military. Due to its long-standing principle of low profile, the Foundation never actively promotes itself. Even the board members are only familiar with the parts they are responsible for. No one outside understands its true nature. Even this small glimpse that the outside world sees is already intimidating, which is the source of Zheng Fan's confidence. The Crawlers Foundation has become the most powerful organization on Earth, without exception. Chapter 270, Sahara. In the blink of an eye. It has been over a year since Zheng Fan's awakening. To most ordinary people, this is an unfamiliar name. A portion of those who have heard of him have slowly begun to forget, and only a few who know him have not heard any news since his awakening. The position of chairman of the Crawlers Foundation is still held by Li Hong in an acting capacity, and Zheng Fan has never visited the headquarters building. After returning from the Lighthouse Nation, Zheng Fan resumed a life of seclusion. Unless someone visited him, he rarely met anyone, and the villa gate often went a month without being opened. Knowing his personality, those friends of his tried not to disturb him unless absolutely necessary. Under the mediation of Chris, the leader from the Lighthouse Nation, many countries have lifted restrictive laws on brainwave technology. Artificial intelligence technology and smart robots have fully entered these countries, significantly boosting production efficiency when paired with the smart robots from the Daegu company, making people's daily lives more convenient. At the same time, more people have lost their jobs. These countries have begun to impose a tax on smart robots, attempting to use the revenue to aid the unemployed. Although there has been some effect, it has also led to increased costs for businesses. The income of the unemployed has drastically decreased, which will inevitably lead to growing dissatisfaction. When this dissatisfaction will erupt remains uncertain. The quantum chip, designed to mimic the human brain, has been successfully manufactured by Nuwa and has undergone small-scale trials. For these research-oriented robots, it can significantly enhance cognitive ability and memory capacity while also reducing energy consumption. Due to the differences between the two systems, the integration of the robot's programming with the quantum chip results in a series of complex changes. Robots using this chip will face a side effect. Their programs can no longer be uploaded to the network for backup, meaning their lives become intertwined with the chip. Theoretically, their lifespan remains sufficiently long, but they are no longer completely secure. If the chip located in their head is destroyed, it is equivalent to death. Based on the principle of uniqueness, once a quantum chip is used, the original body's backup on the network will be completely destroyed, and this process is irreversible. After internal discussions, half of the research robots at the Crawlers laboratory have been modified with this chip, including Wu Qi, who is willing to become more human-like, even at the cost of losing some security. This modification is not something that can be done casually. It requires a substantial amount of points, and ordinary robots do not qualify for such modifications. This is akin to replacing the entire body from the inside out, with costs several times that of the original. Yuan naturally has enough points for the modification, but after a brief consideration, she declined. I'll wait to modify it when I decide to retire. If life is only lived once, I fear I might hesitate when protection is needed. Quantum chips have successfully been applied to smart robots, marking the first step towards a universal quantum computing architecture. A robot can also be considered a type of computer capable of performing many complex calculations. They can connect with each other and generate computational power dozens of times greater than before, yet they still remain within the realm of traditional electronic computers. The ideal model in his mind should be a self-sufficient, perfect life system that can adapt to most environments in the universe and replicate itself according to demand, while avoiding overpopulation. This system should provide computational and storage capabilities several orders of magnitude higher than what is currently available. By that time, simulating the present universe should not pose a problem, and many issues that trouble them should find answers. Currently, they are also able to produce these robots simultaneously on the Moon and Mars. Once the number reaches a certain level, they can establish a true interstellar quantum communication network, completely resolving existing communication delay issues. Dad, I've finished my winter vacation homework. When are we going to Africa? Zheng He knocked on the door and interrupted his thoughts. Soon. Just wait for your mom to arrange her work, and then we'll set off. Dad, I want to know what the new spaceship looks like. Zheng Yu followed him into the room, unable to resist asking. The new spaceship will have a larger capacity, able to carry 100,000 people for interstellar travel. And it will be easier to take off and land safely on planets without magnetic fields. Zheng Fan explained to his daughter. Is it shaped like a flying saucer? That's a secret. You'll find out then. Dad, you're so annoying. A year and a half ago, the Reptilian Foundation signed an agreement with Niger, Chad, Libya, and Algeria to lease a total of 200,000 square kilometers of land in the Sahara Desert bordering these four countries to build a second interstellar travel base. After more than a year of construction, the base has finally been completed and is ready for use. At the same time, a new model of immigrant spaceship, constructed at the Mercury base, will arrive on Earth in just over half a month, landing at the Sahara base. Having woken up more than a year ago, Zheng Fan, along with his wife and children, has traveled to many places during the holidays, making up for past regrets. With the children on winter break, Zheng Fan and Li Hong decided to take them to Africa and visit the newly built space base. They were joined by Lu Yu and Chen Fei, who brought their 3 children along. The year after Zheng Fan fell asleep, Chen Fei became pregnant and gave birth to triplets, all boys. And they married due to the pregnancy. After marriage, Chen Fei resigned from her position as president of the Reptilian Technology, retaining only her board position at the Reptilian Foundation, focusing on managing the Interstellar Reptilian Travel Agency. She spent most of her time at home caring for the children, while her husband, Lu Yu, took care of work. Their 3 sons are just a few months younger than Zheng Hua, and for convenience, they named them Lu Xiao Yi, Lu Xiao Air, and Lu Xiao San. It's hard to say what they were thinking. The eldest's name is fine, but one wonders how the younger 2 will feel about their names when they grow up. 2 aerospace vehicles took off from a certain city and flew directly westward into space. After about 10 minutes, they reached the skies above North Africa and re-entered the atmosphere, heading towards the base location. Through the aircraft's observation windows, a vast area of several hundred square kilometers of black rectangular ground could be seen amidst the endless yellow sand. As they descended, 2 white cross-shaped markers with circles on the edges of the black area became visible, indicating the landing position of the aircraft. The planes hovered and then slowly descended, and the entire black ground was also gradually sinking. After landing, they found themselves nearly 100 meters underground. The 2 aircraft moved forward a few dozen meters and parked in their designated spots, while the ground they had landed on was slowly rising. Haha. Welcome everyone to the Sahara base. The 2 families disembarked from the planes, and they were greeted by a bald, muscular man with dark skin, wearing a short-sleeved floral shirt, matching floral shorts, and soft beach slippers. Are you Uncle Yuli? Someone asked uncertainly. With such a transformation, how could I not recognize you? Yuli praised, reaching out to pat the child's head. I think you shouldn't be called Yuli anymore. You should be called Chameleon. You've changed too quickly. Another person teased. This is called adapting to local customs. Blending in with the people reduces communication barriers by half. Yuli said proudly. In contrast to Yuli's outgoing personality, the couple had 3 shy sons who always wanted to hide behind their parents when they saw strangers, which frustrated their mother, who was fiercely protective. The hangar was located 100 meters underground, and the base they were heading to was even deeper. Chapter 271. Underground City to avoid criticism from certain environmental organizations. The Sahara base did not make drastic changes to the surface environment in its initial stages. Instead, most of the base's facilities were constructed over 2,000 meters underground. Only a landing area for spacecraft was built on the surface, along with a series of storage facilities, hangars, and an underground transportation system within the first 200 meters below ground. With the experience gained from building lunar and Martian bases, the construction of the Sahara base progressed rapidly. The chosen desert had several meters of sand above a granite crust that was tens of kilometers thick, making it ideal for underground base construction, as this granite had a stronger load-bearing capacity. The base was designed similarly to the lunar agricultural city, with layered farms and pastures from bottom to top. Due to the stronger gravitational pull of Earth, constructing high-rise buildings 2,000 to 3,000 meters tall, like on the Moon, was more difficult and costly, which made it less worthwhile. Therefore, This base's area was expanded several times, with a height of only 5,000 meters, and buildings were kept under 1,000 meters, averaging only 200 to 300 meters in height. After a 10-minute ride, the high-speed magnetic elevator came to a stop, and the doors opened to reveal a spacious elevator hall. The elevator they had taken could accommodate 2 cars and hold 100 people without any strain. There were 10 such elevators in the hall, and similar elevator halls existed in the underground base in the hundreds, designed for easy evacuation of personnel in emergencies. Outside the elevator hall, there is a long arched corridor, with the arch's height reaching 10 meters from the ground and a width of over 10 meters. Walking inside, one can hear an echoing sound. After walking through a corridor of 200 to 300 meters, there is a large square spanning tens of thousands of square meters, featuring a football field covered in green grass, where 2 teams are playing, surrounded by many spectators. Beyond that, there are basketball courts, tennis courts, volleyball courts, and other sports facilities, all bustling with activity, although these sports areas occupy less than half of the square's total area. In the square, there is also a musical fountain with over 1,000 nozzles, spraying water columns in varying heights synchronized with the rhythm. Surrounding the square is a green belt, with newly planted trees about the thickness of an arm, still too young to provide shade, alongside lush shrubs that have been neatly trimmed. Further out is a wide road, lined with many small open-top autonomous vehicles, resembling bumper cars but lacking a driver's seat, with only 2 seats and a cartoonish design. Uncle Yu, can we ride in one of these cars? Zheng Hua's attention was immediately drawn to the cute little vehicles. Of course, these are free transportation tools, because they are small. We call them pudding cars, and anyone can ride. Yuli replied, turning to invite everyone. The 2 families, along with the assistant robots, filled up 8 small cars, which automatically formed a line as they drove off on the wide road. The speed of the small cars is not fast, only about 30 kilometers per hour, and the roads are filled with such vehicles, moving in an orderly fashion. On both sides of the road, there are rows of high-rise buildings, 200 to 300 meters tall, all seemingly identical in design. The base currently has facilities and supplies that can accommodate 500,000 people, with over 200,000 various rooms available. In the future, it can be expanded tenfold as needed. We follow similar rules to those on the moon, but here, a deposit is required for entry, and the points earned cannot be exchanged for cash. Accumulating enough points can qualify one for immigration to another planet. Yuli, sitting in the middle of the convoy, introduced the situation to the passengers on either side. They generally knew the basics, but he had clearer details. How many people are living here now? How many qualified immigrants are there? Zheng Fan asked. We charge a relatively low deposit for people from nearby countries, so they can enter without working and have their meals and accommodation covered, which is very attractive to them. So far, over 30,000 have come in, but more than 20% have been expelled for violating rules and losing their deposits. Hopefully, it will improve in the future. Most of them are illiterate, and communication is difficult, so we have to be strict. As for qualified immigrants, there haven't been any yet. We just opened a week ago, so it should get better. Yuli explained. Isn't Africa known for its large population? Why are there only so few people? Liu asked, puzzled. The base is located in the central desert area, which is sparsely populated to begin with. We are currently constructing underground magnetic levitation railways in 4 directions. The West Line has just reached Tamanrasset, and most of these people have come from there. The numbers will continue to grow. Once our Interstellar Crawler Airlines regular flights are launched, we will bring people from all over the world here, and I guarantee you won't be able to resist. Liu patted his chest and assured. Their shuttle bus stopped in front of a building resembling a hall, with stone columns 1 meter in diameter, spaced 10 meters apart, creating a row of over 20 columns, nearly 30 meters high. A magnificent gate, 4 to 5 meters tall, with a width of 3 meters, led into a long corridor. Zheng Fan was not impressed by these ostentatious buildings, but there was no choice. Most people recognized these symbols, especially in many parts of Africa where illiteracy was prevalent. Reasoning was ineffective, so they had to rely on these external structures to instill a sense of awe and ensure compliance with the rules here, gradually educating them over time. The central circular main auditorium could accommodate 20,000 people, with tiered seating arrangements suitable for reports, concerts, and film screenings, all with top-notch effects. After observing the main auditorium, their group took the elevator to the top floor, where the venue was divided into over 90 different functional halls across 3 levels, along with 50 floors of apartment-style suites, and hundreds of rooms dedicated to hosting various distinguished guests. They were, of course, the top-tier guests, with only 2 suites on this floor, perfectly suited for their family. The interior of the rooms was designed as spacious open layouts, equipped with all necessary amenities, and huge floor-to-ceiling windows provided a view of the outside scenery, which included a fairly large park and a central artificial lake. Standing by the window and looking at the outside view, it was hard to imagine this was an underground city. Above was a blue sky with white clouds, while below were lush green trees and a serene blue lake, creating a dreamlike atmosphere. They left home at 8 in the morning, rushed to the airport, and crossed thousands of miles to reach Africa, settling into this underground city in less than 3 hours, which hardly felt like a tiring journey. "Dad, come play table tennis with me." As soon as Zheng Hua entered the room, he was eager to try out the table tennis table in the gym, barely having set down his luggage. "You should go find the Liu brothers. They are your peers. They are too inexperienced. I don't want to play with them." "Then how about your sister?" "She won't play with me." Zheng Fan had no choice but to accompany his son for practice. He was skilled and knew to take it easy on his son, unlike Li Hong and Zheng Yu, where Zheng Hua could only pick up the balls in front of them. Therefore, Zheng Hua enjoyed playing with his dad the most, as he could practice his skills without having to frequently retrieve the balls. After Liu Yu's family settled in and came to visit, they saw the father and son